This meeting of the Eau Claire City Council will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Anderson. Berge.
Here.
Brewster.
Here.
Felton.
Here.
Johnson. Jones. Imboga.
Yeah.
Miller.
Here.
Schoen.
Here.
Serrano.
Here.
Worthman.
Here.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to the Monday, March 24th meeting of the Eau Claire City Council. It's always nice to see a full house here. I think there's people in the overflow room as well. Just going over how tonight's meeting will work in case anyone's new here. Staff will present on an item, and then the council will be able to ask questions on that item, and then we will open up that item for public comment. There is a sign-up sheet in the back, so if you are hoping or would like to speak, please sign up, and I will go off that sheet. However, once I get through the sheet, I will open it up to council chambers, and then you can have another chance to speak. But I will prioritize those that signed up. And then you will have four minutes to speak, and you can speak one time on each agenda item. Also with the public comment, so this is, let's see, the red lights, well, the green light, green, yellow, red will indicate your time. This time is not for personal complaints of city personnel, elected officials, or any person affiliated with the city. And I think that we have other rules for, at the end we have our public comment period, which is a little different, but I'll go over those as well. So, all right. And there are blue cards in the back. If you don't feel comfortable speaking, you can fill out the card, and the city clerk will give that to us. And you also can email us anytime, too. And many people have emailed, so thank you for that. So, all right, with that, we'll go to our first item, which is a public hearing on zoning. This is a public hearing on an ordinance to rezone properties from TR1A to R1 and RTP located on Evergreen Terrace, west of South Lowe's Creek Road. We have Director White here. Welcome.
Thank you, Council President Berge and council members. As you indicated, we are looking at a rezoning this evening and a preliminary plat for a portion of the development. This is in the area along South Lowe's Creek Road with Evergreen Terrace to the north. Going to the next slide. The area that we're talking about is the one that was identified in Area 5, so down on the southern portion of the map that showed, this was the one that was presented at Plan Commission. This is the parcel in question. It is currently zoned TR1A, that's a temporary zoning. That is the zoning that was placed on this parcel when it was annexed along with the Orchard Hills annexation in 2023. The hatched area on that development shows where the property is. The light gray area surrounding that is the notification zone for a rezoning request. I would point out that the units or folks in that vicinity that are Eau Claire City residents get a direct mailing. The township gets a mailing, and then they notify any members of the township in that area. So we don't mail directly to township members, non-Eau Claire residents, as per city policy on the notification process. Again, this is identifying the current zoning of the parcels and then the surrounding area zoning. And the city pieces, we have public zoning, which is the Eau Claire Park, the county park, and then R1 and R3 to the west, which is a part of the Orchard Hills development. This is the parcel as it stands, looking at the aerial photo. Again, approximately 40 acres of space, looking to do R1 and R2, so we are looking at 1 and 2 family home units. The development is looking at, get to my right page of my notes here. The proposed rezoning reflects single-family homes on the southern portion of the end, and then some twin homes that will be located on the northern portion of the project. The area in the dark yellow is the I2 or is the R2P zoning request. The light yellow area is the R1, which will be single-family home request. The reason for the plan unit development is they are asking for a modification of the setbacks, slight reduction in setbacks, particularly the frontage on the terrace. They're asking for shorter setbacks than what are currently required under the ordinances. As I mentioned, the property was brought into the community through annexation in 2023 as part of the Orchard Hills annexation. Going to the lot layout, this is what they are looking to lay out. The development shows approximately, let's see, where's my numbers here? I believe it's 109 single-family lots and 42 twin home lots, or 21 structures on those twin home lots. The area of the twin homes will be along Evergreen Terrace, which is on that northern side with those longer, skinnier lots. That is the area that would be zone R2 and ask for the reduced setbacks. They are number of conditions that were placed forward with the Plan Commission's recommendation for approval of this project. They were listed in your packet. Just to hit a few of them quickly, we did ask that the corner lots along Evergreen Terrace face the interior of the streets as noted. So where that short street comes off of Evergreen Terrace, the twin homes on that lot will be rotated to face that interior street coming off of Evergreen Terrace and moving into that. That reduces the number of driveways that will be on Evergreen Terrace along that northern section. The twin home designs are to vary in exterior building material and packages. No identical appearances shall be repeated. They are looking to identify a proposed access trail that will be coming through there at a later time that will run through the property. It will connect trail to other areas. There will be a development agreement that will be entered into that will cover street, sidewalk, and utility improvements, and also the road cross-section improvements. Director Ness from engineering is available here to ask sort of specific questions related to engineering-related traffic movements, things like that. Provide stormwater calculations, which are required for any type of development of this size and type. That will be also a requirement before permits are issued. They'll also need to provide information on proposed street grades within the development. Again, that's a standard request for any city project, and will be part of the permit issuance. We'll be getting that information in place. Preparing submitting materials to the city's submission to the West Central Wisconsin Regional Plan Commission, requesting an amendment to the sewer service area. Some of the road movements will be going to areas that require DNR approval for slopes that are 20% or greater. So that's a process that's required. DNR handles that, and West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission handles that process with the DNR. Final plat will be submitted at a later date. We'll provide locations and widths. Again, the plat you're looking at tonight is just for those areas along Terrace, Evergreen Terrace. So there will also be, could be some later changes before initial plat is submitted for the single-family homes. So want to make sure that there's a clarification there. The plat you're looking at right now, that you're just looking at approval for those units along the road. There was an additional request by the Plan Commission to add in a playground or buffing area for the neighborhood, and also buffering due to slopes along the creek. And staff will be working with the applicant to meet those requirements that were set forth, those conditions set forth by the Plan Commission's recommendation. Looking at this, I want to kind of point out a few things. We received a lot of emails, a lot of feedback from the area, from the township members, the residents of the township, regards to this facility or this proposed development. A lot of it reflecting the tree removal activity that's been occurring in that area, and also reflecting density and traffic movements of that nature. The property owner is here, the developer is here. He can answer specific questions about tree removal and what strategy was behind that. I will reference that under current ordinance. What they did in terms of removal was within our current ordinance. We haven't adopted a new ordinance for tree protection at this point in time. So what they did was following within their rights under the current ordinance. I wanted to touch a little bit on density. So this is identified as a low density development. The City of Eau Claire low density is 2.5 to 6 units per acre. That is urban low density, and that's per our zoning code and comp plan. This development is at 2.7 units per acre. So this is at the very bottom of the range that we would even allow to be built in the City of Eau Claire. Under 2.5, we would actually make them split lots down and increase density. So that's different than what you see in the surrounding areas, which are township rural density areas, the densities of the township area are at 1.6 units per acre, which is not allowed to be built in the city of Eau Claire. So they do meet the conforming requirements that we specify as low density for urban development within this space. Wanted to touch a little bit about the streets. There are about 6,415 feet of new roadway within this development. They will be submitting names and requirements that will go through our approval process and multiple developments before that goes forward. All lots in the subdivision will have access from a street. And there will be some curb and gutter does not currently exist in any of these areas, but there's some looking at some redesign on that, which Director Ness would be able to touch base on. Traffic, there was a traffic impact analysis done. So this project is estimated to generate between about 1,530 trips on a typical weekday, or an additional 145 trips during the peak hour, which this is not expected to impact traffic flow in the area based on the TI research. And again, Director Ness would be able to answer more detailed questions relating to that. Water and sanitary sewer, the utility extensions are expected to be submitted and occur in spring of 2025. We'll construct a water main and sanitary sewer in the Evergreen Terrace and Mishler Road of adequate size to serve the full subdivision. Construction of the main water facilities, et cetera, will be done through a development agreement at a later point. Wanted to point out at this point in time that this development is within our sewer service area. The sewer service area is a planning area designed to anticipate communities' future growth needs for wastewater treatment. Planning helps protect the communities from adverse water quality impacts and development cost-effective, environmentally sound 20-year sewer systems. This area was incorporated in the sewer service area plan in 2005. So this has been in our SSA for 20 years, and it was identified in that plan as an area of potential growth for the community. So it is looking at going through that process as well. Storm drainage, again, there's no current public storm sewer connections in this area. That will have to be addressed as they go through the development process and through development agreements. There are no transit in this space. So no transit connections. That at some point that may be discussed at a later point is how does public transit come into play? Should there be an address to access that? That'd have to be worked out again at a later time. At this point in time, I know I've hit you with a lot of information. Hopefully you had a chance to read your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point in time.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Schoen?
Thank you, Council President Berge. I just want to ask for clarification on something that you mentioned, Director White. I believe it was publicly noticed in the packet that we would be considering just the rezoning, but I know you mentioned, and in the Plan Commission packet, there's reference to the final plat, and so, or preliminary plat?
It is a preliminary plat.
So could you just clarify what actions council is considering?
Correct. That is what was recommended from Plan Commission, was the preliminary plat for just that dark yellow area. So that is the only area that was submitted as preliminary platting. There will be some adjustments, and that will still come forward for a final plat as well. There's going to be a couple of alterations, as we said, one of the conditions is to turn a couple of lots interior. But this was what was submitted and presented to Plan Commission, was just that section as a preliminary plat.
Yep. Thank you. So the action that we're considering, though, this evening, tomorrow afternoon, is just the rezone. Do I understand that correctly?
It's the rezoning and the approval of the preliminary plat defined by that dark yellow area.
Okay, thank you.
That was how it was presented, bringing forward.
Okay. Councilmember, City Attorney Nick, you have a clarifying?
Right. Thank you. And sorry to jump in, but I wanted to add some additional information on the longevity of the planning process of this parcel. In addition to the minimum 20-year planning horizon of this being within the sewer service area, also know that the city and the town of Washington, in fact, all of our surrounding towns that are within our sewer service area and our extraterritorial jurisdiction, which extends 3 miles out from our borders, entered into a cooperative agreement first in 2009. We've since renewed that, so it's still a current agreement. But ever since 2009, the parties got together and said, we'd like as a community to have some shared understanding of what is going to happen, to try to frankly inform projects like this. And you had a plat that you approved in our extraterritorial jurisdiction just a meeting or two ago when you asked Director White some of these questions, and it was out, if I recall correctly, out in the town of Pleasant Valley. But it was within our 3-mile plat approval jurisdiction, and we have approved it. You approved it with larger private sewer and water systems. So that was part of what the city agreed to with our surrounding towns, that we would allow plats like that to move forward, where otherwise the option is to not allow them and have all that land wait until it develops on an urban model. But instead, we don't. We've allowed a great number of those projects, including, again, just recently. In return, the towns all agreed and still agree and renewed the agreement to have these sort of policies for lands within the SSA, which again, this was not part of the more recent amendment. This is land that's been within the SSA for over 20 years. So the agreement says this about that. Parties recognize and acknowledge the city has a legitimate role in ensuring the areas within the SSA, such as this property, are carefully planned and developed. It is anticipated at some point in the future that these lands will be annexed and attached to the city's public utility system, which is in progress. It is reasonable that the city require that residential areas within the SSA be developed in general accordance with the city's comprehensive plan, municipal ordinances, and design standards. The parties recognize that haphazard or premature development in these areas could prevent the efficient use of land resources and inhibit efficient and cost-effective delivery of urban services. So, and that has been, again, a cooperative agreement in place for 15 years with, again, all our surrounding towns, but including town of Washington.
Thank you for that background.
I would add, you are correct. I just rechecked the staff report. I added an additional section. This is just a rezoning with the conditions recommended by Plan Commission. This is not a preliminary plat approval in that area. This is just the rezoning from TR1 to R1 and R2.
Thank you, Director White.
Yep. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Director White. I can't quite read the text in here. What is the light yellow and what is the orange on this?
So the light yellow is the R1, so that would be single-family home development, and then the dark yellow would be the R2P.
Okay,
so
that fit what I saw on the other one. A question I had was, and I don't know if this is a question for you or the developer who you said is here, but back when we were looking at the plots for the Orchard Hills development nearby, the portion that abutted the existing homes was intentionally the lower density homes. That was the R1, and then from there below, I think it went to R2. This seems to be the inverse. We have the R2 next to the existing homes. Is there a rationale why we're not following the similar pattern as we followed with the Orchard Hills and having the denser ones closer? The topography, or is there? I'll let you answer the question, I suppose. But
the developer addressed that question at Plan Commission as well, and I'll actually let him answer that as well. He could answer it in a more thorough manner than I could. So I don't know if that would be preferred to do that now or.
Well, I'm okay with waiting more
comments.
questions for you, then afterwards he can come up.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, just don't forget it. Councilmember Worthman.
Thank you, Council President Berge. That was the question I asked at Plan Commission as well. So, Director White, one of the things I wanted to understand, there's actually two questions I have. One is about process here, going off of Councilmember Schoen's question, which is, at Plan Commission, this was a rezoning and a preliminary plat recommendation. But here tonight, as I understand it, it's just spelled out on in our agenda as a rezone consideration. Given that, any of the pieces that have to do with, I assume, streets and things along those lines, even layout potentially, are probably outside of the decision that we're going to be making tomorrow. And that would mean that the preliminary plat and future stages would all be coming back to the council potentially at other points? Or how should we understand that process from going forward?
Correct. So the street work, the infrastructure, and those plans, those will be governed under a development agreement with engineering department that to see those installed. So that would come forward for council for approval as well. So that's where
Okay.
you would have an opportunity to direct and provide guidance as an engineering process.
That helps. And then for clarification, I think for the council, myself, and folks who are here this evening, because I wasn't fully aware of this, but this parcel was part of the annexation decision that the council made 3 to 4 years ago. But the sewer service was only on the portion of Orchard Hills that is toward the west, and this was already a sewer service area, had been extended into sewer service area. So just that's a good way of understanding this, that there were decisions that were made in the past that this was likely to be developed land.
Yes.
That's a good way to understand it.
Correct. And to clarify, as I remember correctly, and say Attorney Nick might be able to address differently, the Orchard Hills annexation, a portion of that was in this existing sewer service area boundary 2005. It had some additional steps because the further south portion of that development was not. So there was a modification that was related to that. But a good chunk of it was in the existing sewer service area from 2005.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councilmember Brewster?
Thank you, Council President. So it seems like there's a lot of things that are being sort of modified with this based on sort of the anticipation of the zoning code update. It seems like we have some setback things that we're allowing, but also, enforcing at the same time the anti-monotony stuff that we're looking at as well. Is that, or negotiate, maybe not enforcing is the wrong word, but negotiating to achieve. Would that be accurate?
Correct. What we were asking to do in terms of the breakup of design is within our current code and design parameters. The setback actually brings it to a level that would be approved under the new zoning code.
Yeah.
And so would be accepted as the standard setbacks for developments moving forward, assuming council approves that in July.
So I guess my question is twofold. If you could go back to the satellite view on that, it looked to me as though the majority of the trees that are going to be impacted there are like sort of planted style pines. Is that accurate? Like planted in rows and whatever, not particularly natural forest.
I'll let the developer answer that as
Okay.
well. He had some specifics on that, but his indication at Planning Commission is the work that's being done now is just to accommodate some of the road work. Their intent is to leave a lot of the individual lots up to the buyer to what they do within their space, but he'll be able to answer more details on that,
Okay, thank you.
on that strategy.
Councilmember Jones?
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Director White, for your presentation. I have a question related to the catchphrase, low density.
Yes.
So I jotted down a question, and I think it's important for us more collectively to understand, right, what that means. And here's my question. So what are the perceived or real-life tangible effects, right, of low-density planning considered for a community like this?
So a lot of what we're looking to do is ensure that there's a spreading of costs to extend infrastructure across enough units. Rural density does not work for an urban environment because your cost to extend a 16-inch main line to service an area or whatnot, that cost is the same whether you hook one home or 100 homes to it. So spreading that across a greater number of developments, what makes efficiency. It makes the efficient delivery of water, the efficient removal of effluent, carried across multiple units and spreads those costs over. It also spreads maintenance costs over a broader area. It makes best use of land. If you look at rural densities, if the city were to look at strictly rural density, say do units at 1.6 units per acre, you would consume 3 times, 4 times as much land to house the same number of people. So in an urban environment, density ultimately saves land from development. It reduces the sprawl of the community by going into tighter, more densely packed areas. This area of low density, again, by city standards, it is low density. It's a better fit for the area that we're looking to do. Some of that's driven by topography. Some of that's driven by what they feel the market is. They could go in and split those single-family homes down again and double what's in there and still be within the low-density parameters that would be allowed under urban planning and urban code. But this is the development they feel works well. It has for them, it has a balance of what they're looking for in terms of marketability and the type of units they can build. But for a community, a city, a growing city, being able to efficiently deliver utilities in areas that expand are what it's intended to do. And the development covers, the density that's being presented here covers what it will cost to bring those over time. It's recouped by property tax over years.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, Council President. One more question, Director White. You mentioned this earlier about the concerns from people in the vicinity about the trees already being cut, and we have a tree policy update later on our agenda here as to for the future. It doesn't exist in our ordinance yet. I guess just to the best of your knowledge, everything that's been done so far is in compliance with our current ordinances, and nothing done was currently against any ordinance we have. Is that correct?
Correct. The trees were cut, the stumps were left. That is compliant with our current ordinances and within their right under current ordinances.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Councilmember Mboga?
Thank you, Council President. I don't know my questions for you or the developer. So I'm just curious, as the developer reached out to the neighborhood residents to see, I think everybody, we have got a lot of emails. So I'm trying to ask you whether the developer, as he reached out to this resident to see whether they can work, they can find a common ground, which houses, how they're gonna look or stuff like that. That's my simple question. I don't know if the developer would ask that.
That would definitely be better suited for the developer to answer, and we'll make that one of his questions when he comes up and provides a response to the other two that I asked.
Great. Okay, I don't see any more questions for you, Director White, so we'll have the developer come up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trees. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thanks, council members. My name is Paul Holsinger. I'm one of the members of the CDPG development group, and here to talk about Creekside development here. So if it's all right, I'll probably just jump right into some of the questions that
Sure.
the council members had. Councilmember Worthman asked how we came up with the design as in regards to how the R2, the twin homes, where they're located. Generally, we look at, when we're developing property, we look at where are the high value areas first, and we'll put the nicer, more desirable lots go in that location. In that case, this is right along the creek that kind of flows through this area and into the park. And then we look at where are the lower value parts of that property, and typically that is along a slightly busier road and further away from the nicer features in the area of the development. So when you look at this area, you have the creek is the highest, nicest, most desirable part of the land. The larger lots are there. The lower lots are along Evergreen Terrace. The less expensive lots are there. And the reason we do that is twin homes are a lower price point product. To hit a price point so someone can purchase that product more affordably, we put it on the least expensive land. And so I think that follows through any development. Typically the larger homes go on the larger lots that are on the more desirable area. So that's really how we get to that layout. We also talked about Orchard Hills and how originally we had multi-units. It was on the flattest part of the land, but it was also right up against the neighbors. And we backed that off to twin homes. And then we actually backed that off all the way to single-family homes. Those single-family homes or twin homes, or if they were multi-units, would have actually touched the other adjacent parcels in the town of Washington. In this case, we are with twin homes, so it's still single-family occupancy, but it is across the street. So there's a street road buffer at least. But it's really driven by the use of the property. The least expensive land goes with the most affordable housing type. So I hope that answers your question, Councilmember Miller. Density, we talked a little bit about that. Our initial thoughts, we actually had a few more homes in here. We backed it off by about 8 to 10 lots from our original count. We backed off a couple of twin homes from when we first looked at this. Mr. Mboga asked about community engagement, and we did not specifically reach out to members in the neighborhood regarding this specific development. We have been at this area for almost 5 years. As a development group, we feel like we do have a pretty good understanding of where folks are at in that area. I understand that there's always a desire to know more information, and we're certainly open to answering that phone call. And I did reach out after the Plan Commission meeting last Monday to some folks that expressed interest in connecting. One gentleman actually gave me his name and phone number. I'm meeting with him on Friday. Other folks weren't as eager to meet, and I understand that. Sometimes that's really just hard. So there hasn't been specific community engagement scheduled like we did with Orchard Hills, but I think a lot of the concerns are the same. And I think that makes sense because it's in the same spot. Regarding trees, we have started clearing trees out there. We are following existing current ordinances. Town of Washington, you can clear any tree at any time. There's no ordinance. There's no ordinance to that effect in the city of Eau Claire. Our intention is to clear road right-of-way right now. We are clearing some of the front yard setbacks up to where the homes will sit, about 20 feet on either side of the road right-of-way. Our intention is to keep as many trees as we can because we value them as well. We'd like to leave that up to the individual lot owners as to what trees they might keep. On some of the larger lots, they might be able to keep a larger quantity of trees depending on their final footprint and house design that they put on that. We are watching the tree ordinance fairly carefully. We're pretty concerned about some of the tree fees that are being proposed, depending on how that is implemented. It can be a pretty scary number. I don't want to jump into that piece of it. I want you to know that we value trees, and we also want you to know that between Creekside and Orchard Hills, we'll be planting somewhere around 1,750 trees at a minimum. It might be larger, it might be more than that. So yes, we are removing trees, but they're necessary for mass grading and roadways. But we do want to keep as many as we can as well. So we hope that the tree ordinance, when it goes into effect, works for development and for tree preservation both, so that there can be a balance between preserving existing trees, planting new trees at a reasonable cost. Let's see, we talked about our 2 location trees, density, and reaching out. I think that's about it. I'm happy to answer any other questions. We did have some comments from Plan Commission that came through regarding park space. We are going to add a park in the northeast corner of the property. We do have a bike trail, a multi-use bike path that goes through the middle of this property planned that will connect Orchard Hills over to Lower Creek County Park. And actually, I really like the park change, where it's going to go. We can, instead of routing the multi-use path out onto Evergreen Terrace for a short path, it'll actually go through that northeast corner of the park that we're going to create in that corner and make a nicer, safer pedestrian bike path area. So I really like that change in that comment. One other change or a suggestion that came out of Plan Commission was addressing parking along Evergreen Terrace. We did work with city staff and engineering on that. We're open to creating a parking lane. There was concerns about having too wide of a roadway. Wide roadways increase speeds. We talked with Ms. Ness. She could talk about that. Doing narrow striping to keep speeds down, but then also allowing a paved parking lane. So we're open to that and planning on that along the twin home area along Evergreen Terrace. And then I think Director White mentioned this, but a couple of the twin home lots faced Evergreen Terrace, and we're going to turn those 90 degrees so that they face the internal street of the subdivision. So we'll eliminate a couple of driveways that were facing Evergreen Terrace that will now face internally. So I think that's everything right now. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Looks like Councilmember Brewster has a question.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, just going back to the tree thing, would you describe what the majority of what's out there right now is some sort of like plantation style pine forest, like planted originally, I'm guessing, after it was logged to just keep soil in place?
Yeah, I actually checked with my daughter on that. She's up at Michigan Tech studying conservation ecology and wildlife biology, so she's helping Dad with this one. They are red pine. They are plantation. They're planted in rows. A lot of them are underneath that 12-inch diameter. I went out and looked at a bunch of them that we're taking down. There are a few that are over that 12-inch. I tried to figure out how much those are going to grow in a year. Some of them can grow an inch in diameter in a year. So depending on what some of those fees are, just a couple of years down the road, if you cleared 50 trees off of a lot and it's $500 a tree, you can do the math. That's a significant tree fee on one individual lot, and we could have many lots that would require planting. So again, I want you to know that we want to save those trees, but the fees could be very significant on one lot. I did some math. Even after the trees that we plant, that would count against or count for replacing some of that DBH that's being taken down, diameter brush height, we could see a $1.5 million tree fee implemented on this property, the way that zoning ordinance is being written right now. At least that's the way I understand it. So I want you to understand that we feel that's super impactful. And so, again, we want to save those trees, but depending on what happens with the fees, that changes everything with how we look at that property.
Thank you.
Does the town of Washington have a tree ordinance or anything like that?
No.
No, okay.
No other municipality around that I am aware of has a tree preservation ordinance. I do think it's important, guys. I don't want to say that I don't think tree preservation is important, because I do. We just have to do it in a way that makes sense so we can still develop property, figure out how to replace trees that we take down, and make sure we're preserving them when we can.
Sorry, I asked the wrong question, but
Yeah.
how, because you cut trees down now on that lot, if this, or I should have phrased it this way, but if this portion would have been in the town of Washington, would that have been against their town ordinances at all?
No.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Right,
Okay.
yeah. No ordinance anywhere about taking trees down in any town or city or village that I'm aware of in the greater Chippewa Valley.
All right, Councilmember Brewster?
Yeah, one last one. The original landowner that you purchased this from, is that the same owner that owned like the area that was developed previously? I'm assuming this was all at some point agricultural or, back 40 kind of woods, whatever, and probably part of a much larger parcel.
Yeah, this is a different landowner than Orchard Hills. So the gentleman still owns the property on the east side of Lowe's Creek Road there, the log cabin over there. He bought it from his parents. I know that much. I've had a few different conversations. I don't know when the trees were planted. He probably would have at least an idea, but I don't know much of the history of the farm or whether it was farmed or not. I know that his brother still owns the farm next door to him there, and knows what's happening there and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, I don't have a lot more information.
Great, thank you. I don't see any other questions. City Attorney Nick?
Just another piece of added information. Mr. Holzinger brought up connectivity to area parks and willingness to add another parklet or play lot within the project. So not only is there connectivity within the development as proposed, and you have a county park generally to the east and northeast, but just also remember that we also have a city park even further south of this development in Keyes Park, which has over 100 acres of largely undeveloped land. But land that had been largely a prairie when it was donated to us and is now a heavily wooded parcel by city efforts. And so just as you think about the development of this land over time, think of perhaps the development that we've seen over the last 10 to 20 years north of the North Crossing and Jeffers Road, and the difference of what a Jeffers Park, for example, looks like now than it did 10 or 20 years ago, or the Northwest Community Park. And so there's a lot of potential there as well, even on a park facility that you have control over to develop and handle the growing population of this neighborhood and our friends and neighbors in the town of Washington.
Great, thank you.
Just one quick comment that Attorney Nick reminded me of. We also have a neighborhood park planned in Orchard Hills, which is right across the street from Mishler Road, and that will have pedestrian and bike trail connectivity to that park as well. So we'll have the park in Orchard Hills, we'll have the park in the northeast corner of this subdivision, Creekside, and then we're connected to the Lowe's Creek County Park.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. So we will move now into the public comment portion of the hearing, and if Mr. Berg will be bringing the sheets. Director Berg. Thank you. Mr. Lane. Okay. Oh, okay. You're giving out your phone number, huh? All right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people signed up to speak. So we'll go through here, and then I'll open up to council chambers if anyone else would like to speak. So first up, we have Mary Prosnick.
Thank you, Council President Berge. City Council, my name is Mary Prosnick. I live at 16448 56th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. However, I do manage businesses here in Eau Claire. I'm also a local realtor. I work for a developer, not the developer for this project, but another developer in town. And I also manage about 1,500 rental properties throughout the Chippewa Valley. So I feel like I have a pretty good knowledge of the housing market here and things that it needs and it demands. And I can tell you that our area does need a lot more housing stock for sale. And this development right here would give us exactly that. The density, I know, is a concern of the town of Washington residents, and I get it. I understand where they're coming from. However, you need density like this to be able to create a layer of affordability. And maybe we're not talking in the same terms of affordability when I say that, but being able to have more density, like explained before, allows for cheaper lot prices. And everything with a home starts off with the land. And when you have large lots, 1 acre or larger, those houses are going to be that much more expensive because the land is that much more expensive. So allowing a neighborhood like this that has what is actually considered a low density, but to some might seem like a lot, really does help spread that cost around. We had a development, an infill development in Altoona, where by just losing one twin home created an additional $10,000 of cost per lot because of the ability to be able to spread that out from road cost and utilities and stuff like that. So I just wanted to say that I really support this development. I think it's so needed in our community. We need more housing stock that's for sale. Eau Claire has seen so much growth over the years, and I think there's so much more growth to come. But lack of housing will put that to a stop, right? When companies are looking to relocate their businesses to an area, if there's a lack of housing, that's a huge concern. And Eau Claire does have that lack of housing. So this is so important. We have, 2 healthcare systems coming to our area, Spirus, and then with the other group that's, I think, also building a hospital over in the Halley area that's going to create jobs, and we need to be ahead of that. And have housing being built now so we have housing available for when those jobs are created, and hopefully that'll just kick and spur more development to continue coming in. So I just wanted to bring that up. I know you guys are going to hear a lot of opposition tonight, and a lot of it is going to be personal, right? It's going to be personal to them for the reasons because they don't want the change, and I'm sure they don't. Maybe they wanted that to use that land or view that land, but it's not their land to use. It's somebody else's land now. And this person wants to bring something to our community that's needed, which is housing. But when you listen through all the opposition tonight, the one thing I do ask you to remember is the silent majority that doesn't show up to these meetings. So a lot of people show up because they're mad about something, just like when somebody leaves a bad Google review. It's rare to find a good review when you're happy, but somebody will certainly blast you when it's bad. And sometimes it's no different with neighbors. The not in my backyard or NIMBYism. It happens and it's real. But I ask you guys, please do not forget about the silent majority that's sitting at home tonight, probably looking for a house to buy, only to find out that there's not much out there for them. The inventory is limited. So please remember that when you guys vote for the rezoning on this, and in the future when you vote for the preliminary plat and the final plat. Keep those people in mind who don't show up. And it's not because they don't care. A lot of times they don't even know that this is happening because it's not affecting their backyard. The people here, it affects their backyard. They're going to come and speak about it, as they should. They have that right to do so. But just remember that the ones who didn't show up, it's not that they don't care. So please just remember them. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Then we have Cassie. Hi, welcome.
Thanks. Cassie Draper, 1617 Birdlawn Road. We were told at the Planning Commission meeting last week that we, the Township of Residents, were late to the game in regards to voicing our concerns about this development. We've been told that this has been, quote, years in the making, but we, the neighboring township residents whom this will affect the most, have unfortunately been kept greatly in the dark. I want to assure you that we acted as soon as we realized that something was happening again just down the road from us. The official publication notice of rezoning was dated just 2 weeks ago on March 3rd. We sent emails of concern at this time about premature logging that was taking place. And although we have been aware that the strip was annexed and within the SSA, this did not lead us to assume it would immediately be developed. Our residents never considered this strip of land to be part of the initial Orchard Hills development that we fought long and hard against. I'll add that there have been no meetings with Paul this time around either. This was brought up tonight and last week as a concern, but to date we have seen no effort on part of Wurzer Builders to consider those the development will affect the most. In a respectful community, this would have been discussed with the neighboring citizens prior to the plans being pretty much set in stone. Knowing well our strong reaction to the Orchard Hills development, the city members and Wurzer Builders could have anticipated our desire for involvement and collaboration. One of the many items discussed at last Monday's meeting was the placement of twin homes along Evergreen, as we're discussing further tonight. It was noted by some of the Planning Commission members that this will be an eyesore and greatly out of place in our rural neighborhood. Mr. Worthman was one of the individuals noting this to be concerning, which we appreciated, and referenced alternate placement of the twin homes within the development to better mirror the surrounding neighborhoods. The rezoning itself, and especially the perimeter placement of twin homes, contradicts the city's comprehensive plan to reinforce neighborhoods with compatible land uses and a sense of identity. Consider this. When someone puts up a privacy fence on their property, City of Eau Claire's zoning department has an ordinance stating that the finished side must face outward toward their neighbor, thereby giving the neighbor the more finished, visually appealing side. Ordinance or not, this is well accepted as the considerate, respectful thing to do. We can make a comparison here. You're placing your highest density homes on the perimeter, the least visually appealing and the homes least compatible with the surrounding rural lots on the outside of the development. Paul admitted that this decision is purely financial, with the more desirable, higher value lots being Creekside and decreasing in value the further out. But we need to consider more than just the financial gains here and consider respecting our neighbor as well as holding true to the city's comprehensive plan. I urge you to decrease this development by voting no to R2 zoning and twin homes along Evergreen. Let's move forward in collaboration, considering and respecting our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Marina Kent. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Good pronunciation on that one, too.
Thank you.
Marina Kent, 2335 Trillium Drive. And I'm glad the comprehensive plan was brought up because that is actually what I wanted to speak on tonight. Objective number 4 under land use and growth management lists a goal to reinforce neighborhoods with a compatible land use and sense of identity. Bringing up Cassie's point of having the twin homes on the outside, it just isn't compatible. It's kind of like saying they disregard the neighbors who already live there across the street to me. Objective 8 under the comprehensive plan, land use states a goal to safeguard and improve environment. Also, it states to protect the key remaining small tracts of wildlife habitat and restore or improve the quality of other locations. Please consider many of us did not have the opportunity to vote you in, yet what you do greatly affects our lives. Please vote no against this proposed map and that current dark yellow, but we are all as well seeing the whole map. Also, before you vote tomorrow, if you have not done so, please come walk this neighborhood. We all drive it every day, but I walk it almost every morning. And to see the tree devastation and my little fox not have a den anymore is pretty devastating. Thank you.
Thank you. Dory? Hello, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's been a while. I was hoping we could have the sound turned up because sometimes in the back it does get diluted to
Okay.
understand. So I'm Dory Pulse, 5905 Crocus Lane, just off of Lowe's Creek and very close to Evergreen Terrace and Orchard Hills. And I just want to say, the lady that spoke from the home builders saying that we were just a bunch of mad neighbors, that was insulting to me. We are taxpayers, we have families, we love that area. We're not just mad, we're fighting for a reason. I always look at your mission statement there, and I wonder sometimes really what it means. We're working together with the community to assure common good, because right now it seems like a big battle between the city and the town, and I don't believe all the towns are quite so agreeable with the city. It is important for those of us that actually own land and live near Evergreen and Orchard Hills, we keep trying to instill some semblance of common sense, but mostly responsibility to you as a city council. The density, if that was low density, I'm afraid to even think about what high density is. My husband and I have lived on Crocus Lane for 18 years. And we moved there because it's beautiful and it's country and it's wildlife. This proposed zoning and density is going to dump out many hundreds and thousands of vehicles under Lowe's Creek Road in the near future. I was stunned a few weeks ago. I was driving down Double I to Deerfield to see massive piles of downed and stacked trees on the Orchard Hills land. I thought, wow, it's starting already. Well, that same week I drove by Lowe's Creek going into town, and I saw all these trees down on Evergreen. And so I drove on Evergreen Terrace, and I saw this little box that was holding flyers, and the flyers were gone, but there was a phone number on there. So I called, and I guess it was the City Planning Commission. And I explained why there were trees way over here and trees way over here being cut down and removed. And she basically told me she wasn't sure, but if the men found an emerald borer bug in the trees, they would take the trees down. So it appears to me that she did not even know what was going on. Eau Claire's current population density is 2,100 people per square mile. The number of homes they are proposing between Orchard Hills and Evergreen equates to 9,100 people per square mile. And that's using the current average occupancy of 2.3 persons per household in the middle of a rural township with a population density of 125 people per square mile. We enjoy so many things out there, and so does the city. There's a bicyclist club that comes out there a lot, and they use the road because we'll come around a corner and we got to put the brakes on because they're in the middle of the road. That's just with our traffic and dealing with the bicyclists. High school students run down Lowe's Creek Road for track or whatever. Local car dealerships will use that circle from 93 through Lowe's Creek and back into town to try out cars. We're raising families, we're walking, and we're walking our pets. The shoulder is this wide, that wide. We're basically a country back road. I would invite, like Morena said, to come out there and stand where these proposed exits will be from Evergreen onto Lowe's Creek and Mishler. That is a roller coaster road. I have no idea the safety that that's going to involve with cars. And believe me, it's 40 miles an hour on Lowe's Creek. Well,
Thank you. And actually, you're out of time. Sorry to interrupt. So
I was watching.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. Is there a way, can we get the yellow light to work too? Yeah. Oh, yeah, because that's what I was waiting for, but yeah, you're fine. Unless I missed it. Was it? Okay. All right, thank you, Dory. Let's see, Adam. Hi, welcome. Good evening.
Thank you, council members, for holding this tonight. My name is Adam Kuntz, Kunz. I am a resident of the township. I live just north of Evergreen Terrace, where Sindelar and Mishler Drive meet up. I'm a transplant to Wisconsin, and I appreciate the first speaker's perspective. I also do want to say that I want to make two things clear. I am not mad. I understand the value of discourse. I teach political science and recognize the importance of negotiating these conversations. And I think matters like this should be open and discussed publicly, and so I'm not angry. I also am not a NIMBY. I don't like that term, and I don't use that term to describe myself. I recognize the importance of growth. I love Eau Claire, and I think that Eau Claire should continue to grow. And I think we have great potential in this town to see community growth. Indeed, I am the person that Mr. Holtzinger referred to earlier. I'll be having coffee with him on Friday afternoon to talk about ways that we can plant native plants in the area and to support the work that his daughter's already doing and encouraging him to do that. I don't want to be duplicative of what others have said, as I know your time is precious, but I do want to just add this. That is, if this development is approved, as I suspect it will be, that the city and the county are going to face some enormous challenges on Lowe's Creek Road from Gulf to Double I. I believe very much that the amount of traffic that will be following that route will be more than what the road can handle. I've slid off that road along the bridge a couple of times over the winter, and I hope that the city would put some investment and time into improving it. That park is a hot spot for year-long recreation and a favorite of cyclists. If this development is made, the city must invest in bike paths, it must adjust the speed limit, it must regularly patrol the area, and it must significantly improve the bridge that crosses I-94. Speaking as someone who is an attorney and an active member of the community, I can say without hesitation that I and my neighbors are prepared to take whatever legal and political actions are necessary to ensure that the city and county protect the safety of us and those that travel that road. I would also encourage Wurtzer, and I will be bringing this up with Mr. Holtzinger on Friday, to help us join in that effort, to encourage you to update that corridor. I imagine that public investments can only help developers in that area, as I imagine that more development will be coming. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Glenn? Hello, welcome.
I'll just point out real quick, since it hadn't started.
Oh.
The dark
there you go.
kind of triangle or trapezoid at the corner of Mishler Road, which is the vertical road, and Evergreen, which is the horizontal one, that dark area was oak trees and mixed maples. And they're stumps at this point. They were not plantation pines. That was native. Presumably they grew up after the field wasn't used anymore. When we moved there in '93, those plantation pines were good size, and I haven't recognized that they've grown since. Obviously they have, but they were very good size when we moved there in '93, so that's at least 30 years. At the public hearing on zoning, I pointed out that R2P would result in 42 new homes crammed opposite 10 long-standing single-family homes. That area, those lots are at least an acre and a half, and they're going to be faced with 42 homes, single-family homes, housing units, and Mr. Holzinger has told us that that's the cheap bunch in the homes that they're building, and they're putting them up against those 10 homes along that road all the way over to Renetta. I'll remind you, you've been hearing about your comprehensive plan, and I hope you adhere to it, but Objective 3, Item 5, sensitivity to content and site and building design. It says new developments should be designed to respect surrounding development, specifically including quiet, low-density residential neighborhoods and other categories. New development should emulate and protect the integrity of existing neighborhoods. And I don't believe this does that. Anyway. The value of the most important land is away from that, and these are on the very edge because it's on the road, like he said, and they're cheaper. So we're putting the cheapest up against these 10 acre and a half at least homes that have been there in the 30 years we've been there. I canvass in the neighborhood, and I built this house in 1970. This is a long-time neighborhood. The lots that are being put there are less than the normal 60 feet wide. The setback is less than what they should be, and the lot size is less than it should be, the 10,000 square feet. And these small little houses, not little, but on a small piece of land, are jammed together and facing up against the existing neighborhood that you're supposed to be respecting according to your plan. It's my theory. I didn't know this was just for that one strip, the narrow little strip along Evergreen and Mishler. My theory is that they split this like that to throw the bait in the line in the water to see if they would catch a fish. If that would fly, then they know what to do with the rest of it. If it doesn't, if you turn it down, as I think you should, I hope you do, that would give them a message that they need to listen to their neighbors a little bit more, and be respectful.
Thank you. Oh,
just as you.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, that's never made a noise before. It's like the music they play at the Academy Awards. Okay, Mike Rindo? Scared me. Hi, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to thank you first for listening to us. As my neighbor Marina said, you are not our elected representatives, but your decisions have profound impact on our quality of life and our property values. So thank you for taking the time. I live at 5920 Crocus Lane. I've lived there for almost 29 years. I came before this body 2 years ago when the council was considering annexation of the parcel along with the larger Orchard Hills development, and to testify against annexation. I said at that time I opposed it because I agreed with the Wisconsin Department of Administration, which said that the annexation was against the public interest. Here we are now 2 years later. Before you, previously, I said that the annexation would result in a peninsula of much higher density developed land in a sea of acre-plus lots in a very well-established neighborhood surrounding all of that density. Mr. White alluded to low density, which is a city standard, but I would tell you that that city standard is 3 times higher than the existing conditions we have out there for land use. For example, my house is on an acre of wooded lot, so I have a fondness for trees, by the way. So I would request that you consider a few things as you go through your deliberations. I realize you will likely approve this. You've not gone through the annexation process and the other things if that weren't most likely the outcome. But if it is the outcome, maybe you can think about some modifications that might mitigate the impacts on the property owners and the people who have lived there for a long time, like I and many of my neighbors have. One of them is I would ask you to reconsider the zoning. Rather than going from TR1A to R1 and I think it's R2?
R2P.
R2P. Please consider making it R1 only and not having any twin homes there. We've heard a lot of conversation about the impact of the twin homes. This is a single-family home area. And it would be, I think, a good gesture on the part of the city of Eau Claire to recognize the homes that are already there and to not have a multifamily zoning that would really affect the people that live directly across from that. The other thing, as a previous speaker said, is there's a tremendous amount of use of South Lowe's Creek Road right now. It's very popular for bicyclists. People walk their dogs, they jog, they're going in and out of the county park. We're going to talk about 1,500 more cars a day, 150 cars an hour at peak periods using that road. So it would be very good, I think, from a neighbor and friend perspective, to consider huge upgrades to improve South Lowe's Creek Road, such as bicycle paths, perhaps dedicated bicycle paths where people could walk, they could safely bicycle, rather than have to worry about dodging cars as they go down there. So those would be some of my requests, understanding that the vote is going to be the vote. I would ask you to vote against this rezoning, but if you choose to vote for it, please consider some modifications to the proposal that would mitigate some of the huge impacts it will have on myself and our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. And we have Pat Smith. Hi, welcome.
Good evening, and thanks for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Pat Smith. I'm here as the Government Affairs Chair of the Chippewa Valley Home Builders Association. I'm asking you to support the rezone of the new Creekside development from temporary unsuited residential to R1 and R2. This development supports the comprehensive plan's intended use of the property as low-density residential and stays within the recommended dwellings per acre while addressing the city's focus on higher density development. We all know there is a lack of housing supply, and the local real estate market trends exhibit this need. By increasing overall supply of all housing types, we're able to impact overall housing affordability and availability. And this project has twin homes proposed that are able to hit a lower price point on the market than single-family homes. There's also been discussion about the new proposed zoning code that is in process and what the impacts on these projects would be after the new zoning code is approved. It is our understanding that this development would be administrative staff approval under the new zoning code and would not have required a rezone and with the new proposed zoning districts. This project meets both the current and new zoning codes. So if everything meets, the comprehend meets the staff requirements, then we ask you to approve the rezone. I'm going to change my direction here a little bit than where we were going from listening to other people speak here a little bit. You know, we talk affordability, low income, or not low income, or not that, but affordability. Our children coming up are looking at $400,000 to $500,000 starter homes. And as Director White mentioned, you know, density can be interpreted by any way. You know, there could be twice as many homes proposed in this, which would cut the lot costs substantially. Yeah, you put smaller homes. In addition, you're seeing more and more mixed-use developments that are aesthetically pleasing. You know, the developers aren't out to just come in. I hate it. You go to the cities and you're like, I'd never get it home. I can find the wrong house. That's not the intent of what our builders are trying to do. We want aesthetically pleasing properties that are affordable for our future generations. That's a responsibility of all of us. I mean, there's only so much dirt out there to build on. We got to use it responsibly. Just one little comment on following up on Paul's Holzinger's comment on the trees. We are very concerned about the tree proposal. Again, we are very economically.
Point of order.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Just that
Councilmember.
I would like to request that the topic stay on the rezone instead of the
Okay,
Century
that's
Code
fine. I just was gonna throw it in. We're very concerned about that, and that's really, I want to thank you. We were just, affordability is one of the main strives of the housing, the Home Builders Association, and for our community. The more we can do improving and developments like this, helps us meet that goal. So, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down.
You bet.
Okay, and we have Tina. Hi, welcome.
Hello, hello. My name is Tina Ball. I live at 5999 Cater Road out in the town of Washington, and I've been here several times. First thing I wanted to talk about, first of all, how amused I was with the short history lesson on this property and the annexation. I kind of want to give the Paul Harvey version of the story that was given to the new council members who haven't been involved in this situation for the last 5 years. While this piece of land on Evergreen, as was stated earlier, was in the sewer service area and was probably planned to go into the city development at some point, that is not the case for 98% of the Orchard Hills land that is right adjacent to this. The Orchard Hills land was outside the sewer service area. The city in the annexation chose to leap over 1,160 acres of land that was in the sewer service area to grab the land for Orchard Hills. So amusing to hear things about following a comprehensive plan, shared understandings with the townships since 2009, and avoiding haphazard premature development when that is exactly what's happening right now. If this area was shown in isolation as a development, I don't think you would have a room full of people here. But this development, combined with the adjacent development on Orchard Hills to add 1,551 housing units on those 235 acres, in combination with the 151 units on these 36 acres, sets up a recipe for disaster on that little section of the town and that little stretch of roadway. So it's not fair to talk about this land in isolation as being queued for potential development since 2005. It certainly probably was, but not this whole big thing that's happening. So I think it was mentioned earlier, the 4,000 people that are going to be dropped into the middle of the township on these 0.4 square miles of land are going to be using South Lowe's Creek Road to get into town for school, work, clinics, whatever they need to go to. That's over 9,000 people per square mile, when the city right now, its population density has been about 2,000 persons per square mile. It only takes a limited amount of common sense to recognize that that amount of people being added to a rural area with rural roadways is very, very dangerous for everybody who chooses to live there. You know, if the city is willing to, and its residents are willing to gamble the multi-million dollars it will take to run sewer and water down there, with the potential of it being limited to those two subdivisions if the village incorporation goes through, I guess that's on the city and its residents. But I don't think it's fair to gamble on the lives and livelihoods of the townspeople who live around that city development, who obviously don't want the city development, and offer a population density 4 times that of the current city. It's like you're trying to solve a problem that you've created by building nothing but apartment buildings in Eau Claire, by taking this swath of land in the middle of rural town of Washington to put some single-family homes there. And they're not going to be affordable. We saw what the pre-sale home prices are in Orchard Hills. They're $400,000 homes. So I really, of course, want you to reconsider your vote on this, to make it more amenable to the people who have to live there, and to make it less dense than what is currently being planned. And I thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Mackenzie. Hi, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Good evening. I appreciate you bearing with me as you've listened to several people today discuss. I know I'm at the very end, so do appreciate your time. My name is Mackenzie Munson. I live at 5111 Sindelar Drive. My husband and I purchased our home from his grandparents a couple years ago. We were so excited to move into a family home and raise our children where many of his family members grew up. When my husband's grandparents first moved to the neighborhood, the trees bordering Lowe's Creek Park were only a couple feet high. Mike would want you guys to know that they were up to his knees. The neighborhood kids would come over to play baseball in the back lot. The neighborhood was safe, it was fun, and it's what we hope for our future kids. Fast forward to today, my daughter Adeline just turned 10 months old on Sunday, and once she learns to walk, she is going to be moving. Even now, we take her for walks as much as we can, and she loves seeing the neighborhood kids also out walking and playing. It's just as we had hoped for. With the Creekside development, that reality will soon be gone. As of now, the proposal does not have a plan for extremely heightened traffic. I would ask that a traffic impact analysis be published and reviewed with the new total lots to include Orchard Hills. I'm not sure if that traffic impact analysis included Orchard Hills and the total development, but I think that should be reviewed and published. I'm very concerned not only for us, but the new potential neighbors living in these homes within the city of Eau Claire. Our roads will not hold up well for roughly 73 times the traffic. Again, that's to include Orchard Hills and the total homes. And there are no sidewalks for anyone to safely go for walks. There's also no crosswalks, so I wish that that would be explored as well. Please, before anything gets approved, complete and review a traffic impact analysis report with those total lots and possibly set some limitations. I ask that you please think of the families in the area, both old and new. Do the due diligence to complete that analysis to make the place safe for kids like my daughter and kids that may be moving into this new development should it pass. And this is me going off script here with the new information that was given tonight. I ask that prior to the next phase of this development, that the developers potentially wait for approval before cutting down the trees in hopes that they can be preserved if it's not approved, because the animals, including that fox, will not thrive in a forest of stumps. I would also greatly appreciate meeting with the developer for some potential ideas in hopes to connect new and old communities and make it a great area if it does get approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. Okay. Melissa. Hi, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for listening. My name is Melissa Margema. I reside at 1270 West Deerfield Road, and I would like to read my statement. There's been a lot of talk about density tonight, and I'm going to, some of the information has been described a little bit differently by the information provided by the planners, et cetera, but I still think it's appropriate to discuss because density is, this density that's recommended for this, even though it seems low density to the city, it is still dense. I am perplexed why the city manager, the lawyer, the planning commission, and council is insistent or persists in approving this density. You may be listening, but it does not seem you are understanding that the density is at the root of all the problems we have been and are trying to alert you to. The density, as we've talked about, affects the road safety. Put simply, more density, more traffic. These country roads, these are country roads and neighborhood streets, not built to accommodate city traffic. Further, they are comprised of city, county, and township roads, so then who will pay to rebuild and then maintain them? According to the proposed number of homes of these two developments, the population will be greater than Osseo and Durand combined. Where will the children go to school? Is building a new school in your budget? Also considering all the school referendums needed to fund our schools now. The density affects the cost to the city and its taxpayers to get city water and sewer to this remote site. I know that we've talked about that it goes to this new site, but it's still at a cost, and that has not been determined yet. We were told by the developers that the density was partially related to the need for low-income housing. So is $400,000 the cost of a low-income home now? Density also greatly affects the environmental impact. First, to assure proper building practices are met due to the topography of the hills and the wetlands that need protecting. But most importantly, though, to all of our futures, the density affects the ability to protect and restore the biodiversity of this site. And so much damage has already been done by the logging recently due to the developer's self-interest and disregard to the greater good to our community. I could go on. The density affects your responsibility to these new residents to provide the same services as the rest of Eau Claire, to provide fire, police, transportation, and to and from the area, etc. The planning commissioner said last week, "We have come too late to the game." That statement did anger me because we, the neighbors, have been here from the start, trying to point out the risks and difficulties of this development. These plans presented here tonight are still a proposal. You do not have to accept or approve the density they are presenting. The City Council has been elected to use the taxpayers' money to manage and comprehensively grow the city carefully and sensibly. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's the end of the signed up people. Is there anyone in council chambers that'd like to speak on this? Yeah. Oh, I must have missed you. Sorry. Come on in or come on down. Sorry.
Sorry, didn't mean to barge.
Oh, that's fine. You could just get your name and address, please.
Jessica Murphy, 16.
Oh, yes. I crossed you off before I called your name.
Oh.
So, sorry.
Now I know my
Yeah.
word. Anyway, so I just wanted 1620 Birdlawn Road. I live
Yes,
out there.
thank
I just wanted to address the city attorney's statement, excuse me, about this being in the works for over 20 years and that it's the parties recognized to work with each other, but he did say to not prematurely develop. I believe that this is being prematurely developed since Orchard Hills hasn't even been built, purchased. You don't know how much of that is going to remain vacant. Currently, there are several apartment buildings and homes and twin homes and condos in Eau Claire and Altoona that are sitting vacant. I also don't understand. I apologize, I didn't get my emails today, but I received several emails from people saying they received a response from their email to the city council sitting on the housing opportunity that says, and I quote, "I also want to share the private developers who own private land are able to bring forth any type of development proposal they wish, regardless of what elected officials, city staff, or other community members might hope for. When these proposals are brought forth, city council and staff are quite limited in what factors can be considered regarding approvals for the project. This is typically related to zoning, the comprehensive plan, and whether the necessary standards have been met or not." Yet I'm confused because if you're limited, all tonight is the developers are telling us that the city is pushing for density, and this is lower density than what the city wants. So who's in control here? Those are two contradictory statements. As far as what Paul said tonight, he said, and I quote, "We want to keep as many trees as we can." I don't know how that statement can be made when a plat and development is not approved at all. How can you know what trees you can keep or not keep for roads, et cetera? So I disagree with that statement because it just simply can't be possible. Also, this ordinance with the trees, I know we want to stick away from that and they don't want that, but that would prevent them from taking trees before development if they do have to pay for it. Paul also said that Evergreen Terrace is a slightly busier road. That is incorrect. A slightly busier road is Lois Creek Road. Evergreen Terrace is a neighborhood road. It is about the length of 2.5 city blocks. It is currently a neighborhood road, and I would again urge you to go out and take a look at it. At the meeting on the 17th, Mr. Helgeson actually wanted to deter people from using the county park because of the traffic that these Orchard Hills and Creekside is going to have. He wanted to deter people to using the crossing Lois Creek Road to use the park. So I don't think that's a very good idea either. Relaxed zoning. If we don't have zoning laws, we have overdevelopment. Where does it end? And then let's just get rid of building permits and everything. As far as the Chippewa Falls lady that was here, not sure why she was here. There's a lot of silent people not here tonight, not because they are for this, it's because they're against this, but they feel like they have no chance to have their voice heard because, and I'm going to say it, because they feel like a lot of pockets have been greased. Thank you.
Okay, yes, is there anyone else that would like, yeah, come on. Just say your name and address, please.
Hi, my name's Sarah Hoffman, and I'm at 5472 Woodcrest Highlands in the town of Washington. I was not planning on speaking tonight. I have a 2-year-old little boy. We are transplants to Wisconsin. We moved to the neighborhood that we did for the rural, for the community, for the neighbors. The family that we bought the house from chose us out of many, many offers because they wanted a family to stay in that neighborhood. Many of our neighbors have been there for years. My son, his favorite thing is to watch the deer in the neighborhood. If this development goes through as it is, that's not going to be, we're not going to have the wildlife like we do. And I'm not opposed to development. I spent 20 years in construction working with developers. I understand the growth. We have transplants like my family. I am asking that the city and the developers work with our neighborhood to match what is surrounding to keep it. And I ask each and every one of you to please come out, walk the neighborhood with us, see the neighbors, see what it's like and what is going to be lost if this development goes through as it is. We've already conceded with Orchard Hills. Please come out, be our neighbor, see what it's about. Think of our children that we want this rural community for. I'm not against housing. I know other families do, but let's make it not as dense as it is, please. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Yeah.
Yep, sure. Just want to state your name and address, please.
Yeah, Brian Wood, 5896 Crocus Lane, town of Washington. The density, I think, has been the main concern throughout this, starting with Orchard Hills. You're basically dropping a little city in the middle of a rural area. And when you talk about the traffic, 1,500 cars a day added to Orchard Hills. And if you look at Orchard Hills, the way that sits up there, and now you're going to look at the Evergreen development down here, but there's only 2 ways to get into town from that area. Orchard Hills is going to have to come down Evergreen, meet up with the traffic coming out of Evergreen, and then they'll hit Lowe's Creek. They'll go south on Lowe's Creek to get into town that way. Otherwise, they'll go north to Double I to 93, and then 93, depending on, if they're going out to the mall or they're going downtown to the university. That's the other way for the Orchard Hills to get out of that area, is to go out Double I, come down up Double I, and again, they will hook up with Lowe's Creek if they're going downtown or towards the university, or they're going to hit Double I to 93 if they're going into the south side of town. And I just don't see any way that you're going to handle that kind of traffic, especially if you add 1,500 to what's already up on Orchard Hill. And it's all got to come down 2 ways. That's pretty much it. That's the only way to get back into town from out there. So
Great.
That's what I have.
Thank you. Thanks. Anyone else in council chambers? Anyone? Oh, yep. Hi, welcome. Just want to state your name and address, please.
Good evening, council members and President Berge. Mark Erickson with Everyday Survey and Engineering, working here on behalf of this project with CDPG. Just some concerns that came up with regards to traffic. The TIA has been completed, had encompassed both developments, Orchard Hills and Creekside. It is in the city's hands and the county highway commissioner's hands for review and suggestions or commentary on that. With regards to traffic and how things flow, we're not going to have 1,500 cars in a snapshot of tomorrow or the next day. Both these developments are going to take some considerable amount of time to be developed. They're large pieces of lands. They're going to take some time to go through different phases of it. We also have suggested and talked with the team of engineering for City of Eau Claire and even the County Highway Commissioner in regards to how we can help redirect traffic to go ways we want it to go. And maybe one of those routes is not to utilize Evergreen or to really greatly reduce Evergreen with traffic devices down on Orchard Hills that would essentially a pork chop, if you will, an intersection divider that would make right turns out of Orchard Hills eastbound traffic to encourage them, i.e. direct them to go down the double II to what would be then 93 or come back around and go up Lois Creek, which is essentially a trunk highway, what have you. With regards to the bridge, that is going to be a group effort by the town of Washington, the City of Eau Claire, the DOT, and all those folks when the time comes. Like all roadways, they live and breathe. They flex with traffic. When my grandfather used to come to town in Eau Claire, it was a dirt track for Highway 53, 2 lanes passing. It grew to as many as 3 lanes with turn lanes, as most of us have understood or seen, and now has breathed again back down to 2 lanes and be more efficient with the traffic flows that are on there. So roadways will accommodate the volumes of traffic necessary. The level of service through the TIA has not dropped to an alarming level, even if all cars did go the way people may want them or not want them to go. But there's opportunities to investigate, to be cordial to the neighbors and how traffic can flow out there to help reduce and direct traffic to go other ways. So, just briefly, it's a little out of my realm. It's Mr. White, and then the developers team is density. It's 2.67 units per acre. That's 2.5 is the minimum threshold for this type of development. It is all considered low density development through the comprehensive plan and how it was brought in through the city as annexation. Everyone's minds and eyes are different on what is dense, what is not dense. It's a feel thing. It's a character thing. I understand it. But any less dense, then the city wouldn't be as fond as trying to approve this because we'll be under that threshold of the 2.5. So I'm here to entertain any questions or if you have any other commentary.
I don't see any, but thanks for coming down.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the council chambers? Okay. In the back. All right. So thank you, everyone, on that item. Five-minute recess? Sure, we can take a 5-minute recess. Yep, so 7:37. Right? 8. Just math is hard sometimes. Hi.
Well, yeah, I do. You think, but yeah. I mean, we're already all about I'll be back in.
This is your 3-minute warning. 3-minute warning.
We're seeing good land at $10 a square foot, and that's not even close. That's less than an acre, 43,000. A good price.
One more minute, and we're starting. All right, if we could get back to our meeting. Yeah. All right. I'm going to start counting down. All right, we're going to get started, so I'm just going to start the meeting again. So if people could, I don't know if they can hear me. Shh. Like friends. All right. Okay. Oh, they're gone. All right, we're going to move on to the public discussion. So this is the parking restrictions and traffic control. It's a public discussion on an ordinance amending Table 3 entitled Stop Intersections and Table 5, 6, 7, 8 entitled Parking Prohibited of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Eau Claire, adjusting parking restrictions and incorporating additional stop sign traffic control. We have Director Ness here.
Good evening. This actually addresses 3 different items tonight, and the first I did not do an exhibit for, but it is changing the intersection of Damon Street and London Road traffic control from two-way stop control to all-way stop control. This is a concern that was brought forward by residents. We did a traffic study out here, and the intersection met the warrants for an all-way stop controlled intersection. So the adjustment to Table 3 would add stop signs to London Road in the northbound and southbound direction. So that's the first item related to the proposed resolution tomorrow that will be coming forward to council. The second item is a parking restriction on the east side of North Barstow Street, just north of the river, east of Riverfront Terrace. And it would restrict parking within the intersection, both north and south of the crosswalks related to the intersection. You can see that on your screen. There is, with the development that has occurred to the east, we found people parking within the intersection area. It's very hard to see the pedestrians when they're crossing the crosswalks. The vehicles are parking into the crosswalks, and by restricting, it's actually one stall of parking. A lot of times 2 vehicles try to squeeze in there. We will be creating a safer intersection at that location, both for vehiculars entering and exiting the intersection, but also pedestrians crossing that intersection. That item was brought forward to us by our Neighborhood Services Division and is supported by staff and PD as well as the first item being brought forward. And then the last item tonight that I wanted to bring forward is additional proposal for parking along Main Street. And this is proposed to remove the parking restriction on the north side of Main Street between Doty and Dodge. It would add approximately 11 to 12 stalls within the existing infrastructure that we have. So it's between the two crosswalk locations on Main Street. It does set back from the intersections, so we do take account the number of stalls in between to maintain the distances from the crosswalks that are required for parking. We do have a chip seal, micro seal project proposed on Main Street this year. So I'm anticipating that should this go through, we'd be able to remark the stall lines in that area at that time. With that, I can take any questions on the items.
Thank you, Director Ness. There you go. Councilmember Mboga.
Thank you, Council President. I have a comment. It is really long overdue about the stop sign at London Road. I live around there. I've seen a lot of accidents for the last 25 years I've lived in Oakland. I've seen a lot of stuff. This is really good for the city. Thank you for good job you've done. Thank you. I'll be supporting tomorrow.
Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Council President. Director Ness. I think it's generally a great idea to lift the restriction on parking on Main Street there. So that's on Main Street. The only concern I have is that there's a corner just, I guess, on this thing here, just to the upper left. Any concerns about, am I correct, is the corner just around that off of the camera, if you go like at the 1 o'clock position, I think it's where Main Street turns around the corner there, if I'm seeing this correctly. I'm just concerned about people coming around at speeds and then traffic being there. I'm supposing engineering looked at this. Any concerns about impacts of the somewhat blind turn coming onto this area here?
So with the proposed parking, it would be between Doty and Dodge, and then from Doty to Dewey Street, that is currently marked as a right turn lane. So that would go from a single lane with traffic parked on the north side of Main Street to that single lane that would then go into a right turn lane onto Main Street, or could continue down to make a right turn on Farwell Street. So it maintains the existing lane configuration at that location, and we have not seen issues with that I am aware of. One thing related to this proposal too that I forgot to mention earlier was I did reach out to the Eau Claire Area School District related to the removal of the parking restriction, and they were very supportive and emailed me back related to that. They did talk with the board or internal discussion related to that and sent support.
Thank you.
Councilmember Serrano.
Thank you, Council President Berge, and thank you, Director Ness. I have a question. The intention of these 12 parking stalls, is that because we're trying to provide more parking, or is it to try to slow the traffic down? Or what is I guess the school district would like to see more parking there, but I'm wondering what was the impetus behind this particular proposal?
So bringing this forward, we're really looking at, one, the addition of parking to the downtown area with the potential removal of parking in the downtown, preparing ourselves for different phases that we'll have to go through with the removal of the Gibson parking ramp and the reconstruction of parking in the downtown area. So we're looking for opportunities where we can potentially we have the existing infrastructure and we can use that infrastructure to meet the needs of the downtown area and the parking demands. I do think that it will act as a traffic calming agent for the speeds coming down Main Street, going westbound as well.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Schoen.
Thank you, Council President Berge. I had a question also about the removal of parking restrictions along Main Street. I'm wondering, this is directly adjacent to University Park, I believe, and I'm wondering if you happen to know of any other city, like green spaces or parks, where we have on-street parking immediately adjacent as this proposal would allow, and if you don't have examples on the spot, even if staff could follow up, that would be helpful.
One that I can think of right off the bat is Wilson Park. There's parking adjacent to that and right down in the downtown area as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Felton.
Thank you. I have a question about the removal parking on North Barstow Street and Riverfront Terrace. So I walk past this a lot, and I've thought about this section a lot, and actually I've talked to former Councilmember Jeremy Gregert before about this. Of course, he had an opinion on it too. I think he would support this. And I also think that there's a bus stop here, which would make a removal of parking a good idea too. I guess my question was, one other thing that I've noticed in this section, there's 2 parking spots that are painted in front of the curb cut for the parking lot for the building, the Andante building. I guess my assumption is like a user and a parker, and is that parking is not allowed there, correct? And I guess I'm just wondering like how we handle. I think my experience is it like creates a certain level of confusion when there are parking spots that are painted, but maybe parking isn't available. So I guess my question is about those that are painted in front of the curb cut, and also that are painted there now, like how we kind of handle situations where parking becomes not allowed when it was previously allowed.
So that's a great question. Sometimes that occurs when there is new development or change in land use in an area, and we have a curb cut opening for a crossing in a location that we didn't have one before potentially. So with this change, we'll work with our street maintenance group on removal of pavement markings to match the respective code or change in code.
Okay, that's great to hear. Hopefully those other 2 to the north can be removed at the same time as these ones here, so thanks.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Brewster?
Thank you, Council President. If you could swing back to the University Park thing, I was wondering what, I do know that angular crossing through University Park is used quite frequently by bicyclists, and I was wondering if it would be possible or perhaps even advisable to maybe cut the number of parking spaces down to like 10 to increase visibility closer to where that diagonal butts into Main. Do you see what I'm saying? So if a car coming up would be more likely to see somebody, do you have any thoughts on that? I guess it's something I'm thinking about.
So yes, when looking at this layout, right now it's showing 12. When I went back and looked at it today, I measured more like 11 stalls, but it's definitely something when we're in the field, we'd look at the vision corners to make sure that we're adhering to the vision triangles that are needed at the intersections.
Follow up real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, it's just, there's absolutely places in Eau Claire that I feel like there's some vision lacking, and I don't know if that's an oversight or just like the guidelines that the state has given to you with regards to those things are just sometimes insufficient. But I just would want to make sure that, I'd feel really bad if I was like, yeah, we should put parking here, and then like somebody gets smoked by a car. So, yeah, I guess so. I guess I would prioritize safety over an extra parking stall.
Okay, Councilmember Worthman?
Thank you, Council President. Director Ness, I apologize, I missed the very beginning of this presentation, but I was looking on Google Map, and I think I saw that the south side of Main Street used to have parking and is now a no parking, and the north side is where this is adding parking on the north side. And I'm just trying to, this is actually an area that, as someone who cycles into downtown, if I come down here, I like to cross at this Dodge Street because you can see toward the corner and you have enough time to cross before a car hits you. And then if you look down toward downtown, you can see people coming up the hill. So you get a block in either direction, which makes this the safest place. So I'm kind of thinking about it from that lens. And I guess that kind of leads to my question, which is like the placement on the north side versus the south side of parking. Or maybe you can speak to that reasoning, I guess.
When we looked at it, just the way that the lanes are oriented at this point, we have a full lane width on the north side, adjacent to the park, which is also adjacent to a large parking generator with the school building there. So we thought that would accommodate additional parking for their facility. It also helps us with the odd-even parking during the winter that north and south sides with the residents in that area as well. So those are two of the reasons that we were looking at the north side versus the south side.
Great. Councilmember Jones?
Thank you, Council President. This question may be inconsequential, but I said this last session. I am fascinated with the behavioral psychologists associated with your work. I really am. And when you talked about this whole notion of vision corners and vision triangles, I'm curious, what is that?
So just more on the technical side, if you're at 3.5 feet high and looking, it's a certain distance to your left and right, and there's actually, they take into account the degree that people can turn their heads, which is common. So that's how we figure out. It's a standard measurement in the traffic industry.
That's great. The more you know. All right. Well, thank you, Director Ness.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't have anyone signed up on my sheet, but anyone in council chambers would like to speak on these three areas of parking restrictions and traffic control. Okay. All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, tree policy updates. This is a public discussion on a resolution in support of updating the City of Eau Claire tree ordinance and exploring a city commission to lead future policy recommendations. And this is brought forth by Councilmember Worthman and Councilmember Felton. So I will let you know who wants to speak on it. Councilmember Worthman?
Thank you, Council President Berge. So just a little context on this. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, but so, as many folks know, there are a set of tree protection policies that are being worked on and have been worked on in our Century Code update. And those mostly all focus on development of new land. This, on the other hand, is focused on updating our tree code, 8.20, which much of it, as I've learned from our City Forester Matt Stoudemire, was written in the 1970s and hasn't had a lot of updates since that time. So what we are trying to do is not change the ordinance tonight, but lay ourselves a kind of a framework, a guide path to changing and updating our tree code over this year with a number of provisions, but really mostly looking at street trees, public trees in our parks, thinking about our tree care guidelines, thinking about the tree care companies that work in our community, and trying to basically bring it up to date with what we know about trees now that is different from the 1970s. So that is what this resolution states in principle. On top of that, there is a section that says that our council is interested in finding a board, committee, or commission that could be the long-term home of future tree policy. We do not specify which commission or committee that could be in this document, but we say that that's something we would like to explore. So that, going into the future, there is a place where community members are paying more attention to these kinds of issues and bringing the council and advising the staff on cutting-edge tree policy. So that's basically what this does. I won't launch into how much I love trees and why they're so incredible for our community and why they're valuable in our community. But that is the greater context here, is that Eau Claire is a special place, and one of the things that makes it special is our tree canopy and what that means for our health, our well-being, our property values, our wildlife, our clean air, and our mitigation of flooding. So thanks for letting me speak,
Great,
Council
thank you.
President.
Sure. Councilmember Felton, you'd like to speak on that? Okay. So I'll just open up for questions for the mover or the seconder. Councilmember Schoen.
Thank you, Council President Berge. I am just curious to understand process-wise. I know in the proposed resolution it says the goal of implementing all of the items mentioned in the now therefore be it resolved clause to be taken on and completed by the end of this calendar year in 2025. Do you envision this being incorporated into the zoning code update, or would this be standalone from that process? I'm just looking for a little bit clarification on how this would align with that other large process that we're going through right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilperson. That's a great question, Councilmember Schoen. So these provisions are separate from the Century Code and what is being worked on in the Century Code. This kind of fills in the gaps, and I think of it as sort of dealing with things that are not new developments, but everything else. And I will say that currently it is in the work plan of our Sustainability Advisory Committee that is looking at updating the tree code already in this year of 2025. So in some ways, this helps support the Sustainability Advisory Committee and the short-term work that they're doing on many of these same provisions. But it also looks further down the road in trying to think about an urban forest board for policy decisions that are not within, and probably not even solvable in the next 7 or 8 months. I would say one of the things that is helpful is that our city forester, Matt Stoudemire, has been incredibly supportive in bringing his expertise to thinking about how to do this. And then we have great community members who are also super engaged in doing a ton of research and thinking about what are other communities doing and bringing that work to this. So this is a collaborative effort, and it also already involves our Sustainability Advisory Committee. If anything, this resolution puts focus on kind of a timeline and kind of a clear, concrete set of principles.
Councilmember Felton, you?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit more context to that question too, and just say that this is what we are going to be voting on tomorrow is kind of the process of working with staff over 2 years, just trying to figure something out. And truthfully, we've had a hard time figuring out what the path is. Originally, it was the Century Code, but we've gotten we've been advised now that it's maybe not part of the Century Code. So, this is what we're putting forward is kind of at the direction of the expertise of our staff, and like Councilmember Worthman said, heavily informed by our staff, including our city forester. Just wanted to give that few years of background.
Great. Councilmember Mboga, do you have a question?
Thank you, Council President. My question is to both of you guys, Andrew and Council Whitman and Council Fulton. do you think it would be a good idea to have a forestry board?
Councilmember Worthman?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Boga. For communities our size and bigger, it's common to have a standalone urban forestry board. What we're thinking is that it would make sense to bring that responsibility within an existing committee or commission or board, board, not to create a separate new one. But I will say that there is already, because we're a Tree City USA, we already have a designated commission for being a Tree City USA, and that is our Waterways and Parks Commission. So we've talked about how that might make sense to already to work with them potentially. But yeah, I think long-term, it makes sense to have more awareness and more policy direction around trees, and the board would help kind of lead that work. So I would say yes.
I don't see any other questions for Councilmember Worthman or Councilmember Felton. Thanks for bringing this forward. Look forward to discussing it tomorrow. Okay, public comment. So we have 4 people signed up to speak on the tree ordinance. So first up, Eleanor Wolf. And just a reminder, you have 4 minutes to speak. So. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. And I want to start out by saying that I'm just very grateful for Andrew Worthman and Kate Feld's work on this resolution. We've been hoping this would happen for a couple of years. As a member of a citizen action, we called ourselves the Citizen Tree Board. And but we have accumulated a lot of information on some of the issues that are going to be brought up in this resolution. And I think this is a great way to talk about it and zero in on some good policies. And we have a lot of examples of good policies out there. A lot of other municipalities are working with tree boards, and that's what I really wanted to zero in on is the last whereas in this resolution, that there's a need to identify or establish the most suitable board, committee, or commission to take on the tasks of the Urban Forest Board, providing guidance, oversight, and community engagement. Terrific. This is what we want you to talk about and come up with some solutions and how you can bring in citizens who have a lot of information and want to help with this. And I'm just excited about this resolution and the outcome. I hope it'll go well and it'll be a positive outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Abigail. Hi, welcome.
Hello, my name is Abigail Kraus, 2136 4th Street. I wanted to speak tonight in support of the resolution, both as a resident as the City of Eau Claire and as someone who has an urban forestry degree and as an ISA certified arborist. I could speak about how great I think trees are all night, about their, kind of like Councilman Worthman here, about their economical, their environmental, their social benefits. But I really wanted to emphasize the importance of maintaining mature canopy that was addressed in the resolution. So especially during development and construction projects, so like road redevelopment, it's important to save our mature trees where possible. So a little bit about background. If you're unaware, the state of Wisconsin participates in a U.S. Forest Service program called FIA, which is Forest Inventory and Analysis, which Basically, across the state, we have permanent plots, and every 7 years, we collect a bunch of data, and we use that to observe how our forest across the state is changing. And in the last edition, they're doing urban data collection, and next year, the statewide data will be available. But this year, the preliminary data from Milwaukee and Madison is available, and what that is showing us is that 10% of the trees in Milwaukee and Madison, so millions of trees, this is park trees, street trees, private yard trees, 10% of them are 15 inches in diameter bigger. So if you're a visual person like me, that is roughly this big of a tree. So this is a diameter tape. It's already converted circumference to diameter. And so again, 10% of the population of the trees, but half of leaf area. And that is important because leaf area is the driver of many of those ecosystem services we talk about. So air pollution removal, avoid stormwater runoff, reduce energy usage. So again, tree planting definitely has its place, but a lot of those benefits that I just mentioned, it takes time to regain those benefits when we lose trees. So we naturally lose trees because they're living things, they age out, we're losing them, we're still seeing the effects of emerald ash borer, so we're losing a lot of mature canopy that way. So I think it's important, and when we have control of things like street development, we can put a little bit of effort, on the front end. Trees are a crucial city infrastructure that should not be an afterthought, but again, brought up during the planning process, kind of like we heard tonight, that people just want to be included. And, with a little bit of forethought, we can easily accomplish saving more canopy. I just wanted to restate that I think it's great the city is exploring ways to best support our knowledgeable forestry staff, and then tasked with, that are tasked with caring for this infrastructure, and then to have a way for interested citizens to contribute to this resource and be engaged with that. And then I guess since I have a little bit of time yet, I planned for 3 minutes, not 4. I forgot that you get an extra minute. I did notice that potentially, like the approved species list would be listed out in the ordinance. I would recommend that be a separate referenceable document. As Councilman Worthman said, this hasn't really been updated since the 1970s. So it's easier to have it as something separate, the Urban Forestry Board could update, or staff, because we have things changing. For example, if we have species we don't want, like invasive species, you can reference the state NR code with the invasive species. So it kind of gives people leeway as we get different cultivars and things. We don't limit, if you're like, you want species diversity, and then you only put 20 species down. So there might be one that's fine, but just didn't get included on the approved species list. And that's all.
Great, thank you. Yeah. All right, Steve, what's next?
You aren't going to try that last name tonight?
What?
You're not going to try the last name tonight?
Oh, no.
Yeah, good for you.
Back
all right,
to,
that's all right.
no, B, Steve B.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I wanted to say first that there is no more silent majority than a forest. I heard that mentioned earlier. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Chinese proverb, centuries before the age of climate crisis. People who will not sustain trees will soon live in a world that will not sustain people. Bryce Nelson. What humans do over the next 50 years will determine the fate of all life on the planet. Sir David Attenborough. The future will either be green or not at all. Australian environmentalist Dr. Bob Brown. You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. Abraham Lincoln. And this, trees make superior role models. Stand straight, listen more than you talk, set down roots, practice patience, hold your ground, grow your own food, drink plenty of water, soak up the sun, live for another day. Anonymous, but wise beyond her years. I just wanted to point out one other thing. I have a little bracelet here that I got from the rainforest site. It says tree hugger on it. I wear it very proudly. I've been wearing it for 12 years. Not the same one. I have a bunch of them because they do get dirty when I work in the garden. But they clean pretty well in the shower. But I am a tree hugger, and I'm proud of it. Thank you for supporting green infrastructure in our community.
Thank you. Okay, we have Libby. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Libby Stupak. I live in Shawtown. And I'm here to register my support for this resolution. And therefore, updating the language of the current outdated and inadequate Chapter 8.2. As stated in the resolution language, a healthy and robust urban forest does provide many valuable benefits, as others have already said. And we are rapidly losing those benefits through construction, street construction, development, disease, and the climate crisis. Once a strong ordinance is created and enacted, we can begin the long overdue process of guidance, education, and protection of our urban forests. Also, an urban forest board would be an invaluable partner in this whole process. We could assist either our citizen tree committee in conjunction with a formal urban forest board could assist the forestry department in all these efforts. I would also like to reiterate that although there may not be current tree preservation ordinances here in the Chippewa Valley, there are many municipalities in Wisconsin and other states that we've researched that have enacted them with great success. So I'm urging the council to adopt this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's the end of my list. Anyone in council chambers like to speak? Sure, come on up. So state your name and address, please.
My name is Harris McLean. I live at 114 North Bridge Street up in Chippewa. So take what I have to say with a grain of salt. I love the idea of the board. My only recommendation is to bring in outside perspectives from the city forestry department. With all due respects, there is a difference in beliefs on how trees should be managed amongst different companies and organizations and everything. It is quite bizarre that nothing's changed since the 70s in this industry. One of my favorite things about it is that the industry is constantly changing. We're learning new things every day, from how to plant the tree, to prune it, to how to take it down, and everything in between. So the company I work for, we're very passionate about preservation. We want to do everything in our power we can to promote healthy, strong trees in our urban forest, and I think that the establishment of that urban forestry board is a phenomenal step forward. So with me being a Chippewa resident, you got my support. I think that's outstanding, and I'm eager to see what goes on in the future.
Great,
So,
thank you. Thanks for coming down from Chippewa.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had 2 Chippewa tonight. Anyone else in council chambers like to speak? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone, so we will close that item. I'll move on to our public comment period. So we have slightly different rules for this part. There's 3 minutes to speak. Let me get my. So this time is for those who live or own a place of business in the city of Eau Claire to speak on citywide issues. You have 3 minutes to speak. You can only speak 1 time. Again, follow the lights, please. Please do not comment on any previous agenda items. I'll say once again that this time is not for personal complaints of city personnel, elected officials, or any person affiliated with the city. Council members are not allowed to ask questions or comment during this time. And this time will last for 20 minutes. So I don't have anyone signed up, but is there anyone in council chambers that'd like to speak? Yeah. Just want to state your name and address, please.
Erin Klaus, 1322 Highland Avenue. I'm here today to express my concerns about the leadership and operational practices at the City of Eau Claire. These concerns stem from both my personal experience as a city employee from October of 23 to December of 24, and now as a private citizen. While employed, I witnessed a toxic work environment that raised serious questions about transparency, accountability, and the lack of clear leadership. I developed for the first time in my life a condition called stress-induced alopecia, where it caused me to lose large chunks of my hair. Since resigning, my hair is starting to grow back, but the impacts of the toxic work environment remain and point to a broader concern about the direction and management of the city. One recent example of mismanagement is the mishandling of an $83,900 check issued to DECI for the 2025 bid contributions. Given the numerous obstacles both of the bids and DECI have recently been asked to overcome, I had doubts that the check's validity about the check's validity, and I reached out to the deputy city manager for clarification. After he consulted with the finance department, he assured me that the check was legitimate, consistent with past contributions, and approved by the city council in the 2025 bid budget. He also confirmed that the finance department was aware of DECI's current status and had followed proper payment procurement guidelines. However, just 2 days later, I was informed again by the deputy city manager, despite his embarrassment and confusion, that this check had actually been sent in error. Further, I learned that this reversal happened while the finance director was out of the office and without the city manager's knowledge. This raises critical questions. Who made the decision to reverse this initial confirmation? And if it were another organization, how quickly would that money be returned to the city? The conflicting statements and lack of clarity are not just frustrating, they're deeply troubling and highlight a serious lack of accountability. This is not an isolated incident. DECI was also mistakenly issued a $5,000 check that was intended for Leona's Pizzeria on behalf of North Barstow Bid. This check was issued to DECI despite the fact that we don't have a signed contract allowing DECI to make payments on the bid's behalf. Staff informed DECI the check was made out to DECI because the invoice was confusing. I have a copy of it here that I'd like to pass around after so that you can see for yourself and determine what was so confusing about the invoice. These two examples point to a deeper systematic failure in the city's leadership and accountability. The handling of these financial matters, combined with the lack of communication and oversight, should raise serious concerns for taxpayers. If these problems are happening in one part of the city's operations, how many areas are affected, and what does it say about the city's ability to function properly and uphold its obligations to the public? What other partnerships and relationships are being strained by mismanagement and a lack of communication? I'm speaking out today not only for my organization, but also for the people of Eau Claire. We deserve better. The trust of taxpayers and organizations like DECI and the Bids is being eroded, and the financial integrity of the city is at risk. If these issues are not addressed, the long-term consequences can be severe, and I understand that my decision to address these issues publicly can carry personal risks, especially given my role, but I feel it's important, I'm almost done, feel it's important to confront these challenges with honesty, transparency, and accountability. If our city is to thrive, grow, it requires leadership that's consistent, responsive, and willing to address mistakes openly. Thank you for considering this serious issue.
Anyone else like to speak on the public comment period? All right. Then we have two, we'll adjourn, but we have two work sessions, comprehensive outdoor recreation plan and water study request for proposals. And right now, this meeting is adjourned. So thanks, everyone. And we'll get, like maybe if you have to go to the bathroom, like 1 minute. Hurry, Josh. Super quick.
We've given them a lot of latitude because we want to get this on the frequencies coming first. So it's, there is still a short, their proposal is still for commercial. Oh, I think I've already said it. They kind of changed on that, the design structure, like more flexible. We need to follow that. I met with their, talked with their yeah, you're just launching right in there, huh? So it is definitely.
I think the water studies
Nobody this year. Still kind of.
I just channel my inner Parks and Rec. Yeah. Oh. Oh. All right, should we get started? Okay, we're gonna get started, everyone. Order in the house. Order in the court. Just kidding. Yeah. It looks like first. Well, no, you can, I think.
Is it going to jump right in there?
Yeah, you're good there, because your first step, it looks like, the Comprehensive Outdoor Recreational Plan, Corp. So, yeah, we can just jump right in, so.
Good evening, Councilmember President Berge and council members. Tonight, we're very excited to present our 2025 to 2030 Outdoor Corp. Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan, otherwise known as Corp. This 5-year plan does a total assessment of our parks and our recreation programs, and it's critical to have this plan in place to go for DNR grants. It's a requirement of the grants. We've been working on this plan along with Ayers and Associates, who won the contract last year's. Over the past 10 months, we had user group interaction. We've been to festivals, did interaction with them, addressed the City Council and the Waterways and Parks Commission over these past 10 years. This plan is an outline of every single one of our parks. They do an assessment, and they give us a score of how we are in our parks. I'd like to point out that this plan just shows what our parks going to do. It is not related to the budget or the budgeting process, although it does help justify when we do request budgeted items in the future. So tonight, our Chris Selesky from Ayers is going to be here to present the plan, and afterwards, we're more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to it.
You want to say something, Patrick?
Okay, you covered it very well. I do have a PowerPoint. I don't know if you guys have that in the presentation deck. Amazing. It's like you've done this before. Okay, so like Steve was saying, we've recently pretty much completed the Comprehensive Outdoor Rec Plan. That being said, it is a large document. It's over 200 pages long, and I can imagine it's going to take some time to digest. Today, I'm going to try to summarize most of the key points within that. Today, I'm going to go through process, just kind of refresh everyone because it's been a while as to where we're at in the process, what we did to get here, and then some key takeaways from that process. I'm going to also pull out some key metrics that put the park system in context a little bit more. It kind of helps digest where you guys in relation to national averages and then some state comparisons as well. I'm going to hit on a couple of challenges the park system's facing based on what we've assessed, opportunities related to that, and then throw out 2 strategies for potential solutions and discussion. So, our process for Corps is a 4-step process. It's what we've used over and over again. We find it works really well. Broken down into these 4 steps, it's collect, connect, consider, commit. Collect is that early on assessment phase. Connect is where we're doing community engagement. Consider is where we're looking at different solutions. And commit is just commit implementation. We're at the final stage. Right now, we're right at that end where we're trying to commit. We've gone through all of the different phases, like Steve said. We've gone to community engagement. We've gone to talk to different user groups. So when it comes to a corp, I think it's important to understand what a corp actually means. It is an overall document assessing the current park system and gives general recommendations for both individual park improvements and overall park system improvements as well. It is not a CIP. However, it does give budgetary line items for individual improvements. So like, Boyd Park maybe needs a bench. Allocate $5,000 for a bench or whatever it may be. Whatever park needs a playground, allocate a certain amount into that playground. And then at the end, it does give an implementation strategy associated to it, but oftentimes those pivot with priorities and oftentimes those shift as time goes on. So we've got two different documents that we prepared as part of this. The Corp, like I said, is rather long. In addition to that, we prepared an operational brief, which is basically a summary of all of that. It hits the high points and gives some really high-level recommendations for management, maintenance, and funding strategies related to the park system. So really quick, some key takeaways that we've gathered from all of the different user engagements, assessments, and data analysis can be broken down into, I think, three main things. The public had very strong things to say about the park system, very well maintained. They value them highly within the community, and that was evident at every community engagement and online survey that we went through. The data points for all of that engagement can be seen in the Corp appendix. There are summary points within each one of the Corp and the project brief as well that you guys can dive into more. Our in-depth analysis, where we were putting boots on the ground, literally going to every park, taking pictures, looking at everything that existed, reiterated how well things were maintained. I don't think within our usability index scoring, there was a park that was poorly maintained or not clean. In addition to that, the people who visited the parks, we oftentimes had 3 different individuals going at 3 different separate times. Varying age ranges, anywhere from, we had our 23-year-old intern out there taking some pictures, all the way to more of a senior citizen type of person visiting these parks with limited accessibility. Each one of those people felt, never did they feel like they weren't safe except for like maybe 1 or 2 parks. So it was very, very good on that side. Data analysis, when we started diving a little bit deeper, there were some missing gaps within the usability index that hit on, actually correlated almost exactly with what the community engagement told us, which is seating and seating amenities at parks is something that needs to be added in. Specifically accessible benches and tables and chairs and those sort of things. So there's a good correlation between what we were hearing from the community, what we were seeing on site, and what the analysis told us afterwards. And all that plays out in the Corp as well. The next few slides talk about the context of the overall park system. In this, we compare readily available National Parks and Rec Association averages, and those are compared across the nation. So you're looking at communities all across the nation in varying sizes. They do break them down by population. From 50 to 100,000 is where Eau Claire sits, so we tried to compare as much as possible within that range. And in addition to that, we also pulled some data points from some Wisconsin communities, because I think it always hits home when it's a little bit closer to home. So the first one is operating expenditures per capita. So as you guys can see on the second line item, Eau Claire is at $81.68, a little bit below the $94.77, which is the national average, below Waukesha and La Crosse as well. But what this doesn't take into account is the acres of parkland associated to it. So you have to see it in a relative context, right? Because every community is slightly different. To the right of that is full-time staffing levels, so FTEs per community. National average is 38, which is rather high, but again, that's across the board national. Eau Claire is 17.5, Waukesha is 47.8, which is like, oh my God, that's a lot. And then La Crosse is 25. Again, all of this is important in context. I'd encourage you to go to the, I might just, I don't have the graph here that kind of hits it home. The important thing I want to say about those 2 communities, La Crosse and Waukesha, Waukesha has a lot of parkland, acreage-wise. And La Crosse has some key big parks that they're trying to maintain as well, so the numbers are a bit skewed between those 2 communities. On the next page, we show residents per park. So this metric basically represents the number of parks divided by the residents, or the residents divided by the number of parks. What we're showing in this one is just national averages and National Parks and Rec Association does a good job of providing a window of data here. The lower quartile, all the way up to the upper quartile. Eau Claire is below the lower quartile in this graph, meaning that there is not a saturation of people using a particular park in the community. There is a good number of parks spread throughout, so that you don't have like a high density use problem where the parks are just oversaturated with people.
So that's good.
That's good. It is good, yes, to a certain level, but it also states that you do have probably an excess amount of parks, which is maybe stressing the maintenance crews. And that kind of segues into the next one, which is acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. The lower quartile of that is 4.8. Eau Claire sits right in between the median and upper quartile. So a lot of acres of land to maintain on top of that. So it's not only the number of parks, it's the acreage and size of parks per average. Closer to the median to be ideal, yeah.
I hate to interrupt you.
You're good. I went all beautiful mind on it for a little bit there.
All right. So when you're talking about parks, like, is that every type of park? You know, like when we're talking about Carson, there's pretty significant parts of Carson that are a little bit on the wild side.
Yep.
That's still considered parkland.
Yep.
And then does it count the water that's in the
It
middle?
does not count
Okay.
the water itself. It's only land.
Okay.
But it breaks, largely the parks are broken down into 3 different categories. Mini parks, which are small urban parks essentially.
Would that be like Wilson?
It'd be like Haymarket Plaza.
Oh.
That'd be a mini park.
Oh.
So super small acreage, usually functions in an urban context. I can't remember I think Wilson's a neighborhood park. That's the next category up.
Okay.
That varies in size anywhere from 3 to 10 acres. And that's supposed to service a neighborhood per se. Typically, Boyd Park is a perfect example of that. And then the community park is the larger one, and those are anywhere from your sports complexes. Carson Park would fit in that category. Pinehurst would fit in that category.
Riverside.
Riverside would fit in that category too. Yep. And green spaces are in there as well. And then you have special use parks, which are essentially the ones we can't really categorize. So Veterans Park, which is essentially a park, but it doesn't have any serviceable function for the community right now other than just green space, is a special use park. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And no worries on the interrupt anytime.
Well, yeah, wait. We have to put limits on that one sometimes.
So the next series of system context slides, we're trying to develop some way to compare a ratio, put these things together in a format to try to figure out how do they compare to both the state and national. So cost inefficiency ratio tries to dive deep into dollars spent per unit of available parkland per employee, and that's the formula you can see at the bottom. So that's CIR. Operational efficiency index is a higher efficiency percentage would indicate, or sorry, is a formula, in this formula, I messed that up, I'm sorry. So basically what we're trying to do is how efficient are you being with your dollars in that one? And where are they being allocated to? So on the next page, we break this down into comparison of 4 different areas: Eau Claire, national average, Waukesha, and La Crosse. And that's what I was saying. Don't be too hung up on Waukesha and La Crosse. They are slightly different. So you look at acres of parkland, full-time employees, per capita costs, and you kind of compare those between the CIR and OER. What you're trying to shoot for is about, I tell people, 100 on either side. So CIR, you should shoot for 100. OEI should try to be around 100 as well. That helps you try to balance both having enough resources out there and not being too wasteful with your resources at the same time. So currently Eau Claire is sitting at 16 acres, 17.5 FTE, and the per capita spending being $81.68. Your CIR is a little bit low and your OEI is a little bit low, but nowhere near where you're at with like Waukesha. And La Crosse is doing a really good job of being efficient with their money when you look at the OEI, but they do have a lot of parkland to maintain and not a ton of staff with it. So.
Can I ask a Could you repeat, so the CIR, what's the average, or like the number that you recommend, or is like the Goldilocks zone?
Where you're at is a good zone, but if you can get up to closer to 100, it's even better.
Is there another measurement, like if you add them together, do you want them to be 200? So like adding 89 and 112 together comes closer to where we want to be? Or is that not really how it works?
I would say no, because I think you could almost have one so far low and one so far high. It doesn't balance it out well enough. Okay, that makes sense? Okay, so I'm gonna shift gears just a little bit, and then we're gonna go into scenarios. So as we went through all of this and what we kind of teased out of this entire process is the challenges associated with the park system are sort of the following. Aging infrastructure, there's certainly some things within the park system that need to be addressed within a few years here. One of which being Owen Park Bench Hill, the Half Moon Beach restroom building. I think everyone's well aware of Carson Park Stadium. Those sort of things are just getting higher and higher on the depreciation value. So aging infrastructure is one of those things, and you guys already have set up some stuff to address that, like the playground fund, which is an amazing fund to be able to do. That is an awesome idea. That is one of the things that's going to help as well. The parkland to population. So there is one of the challenges of maintaining as much acreage as you guys have and numbers of parks that you have with the amount of staff that you guys have. It's just a lot spread out over a lot of area. And then staffing limitations is associated to that. There is a stretch in where and how much they're able to maintain on any given basis. And the aging infrastructure kind of plays into that a little bit. You think of one of the stories from this whole process I can tell you is Carson Park has wooden picnic tables. Those wooden picnic tables, because they're aging infrastructure, take regular maintenance to be able to replace boards and paint and all of that. And then the other challenge is not sacrificing tomorrow just to save today and making wise long-term decisions that are not just going to solve a short-term problem, but solve a long-term. So opportunities as we go through this, I know it's late, I'm just gonna breeze through this so that we can get into more of a discussion. Revitalization, prioritizing infrastructure and investment and selective modernization, balance, right-sizing the park system for sustainability, so looking at what is that staffing to acres and number of parks ratio, that's good. Optimize staffing efficiency and leveraging partnerships, so maybe working with organizations beyond what you guys currently do, which you guys do an awesome job of. Sustaining, so finding sustainable revenue and funding sources for park improvements, and that's maybe leveraging grants or other opportunities. And then connect, enhancing year-round use. So all of these improvements will help eventually to promote year-round use of the park system. All that infrastructure that is awesome during the summertime can definitely extend the shoulder seasons. You're not gonna see someone out there though in -40. It's just too cold. Nicely done. Okay, so towards the end here, I just wanted to go through a couple of scenarios that I want you to consider when we're looking at potentially right-sizing that staffing to acres of land. The first scenario is adding more staff and what that would do to the CIR and OEI numbers. Overall, what it would take to kind of balance those out quickly is to essentially add more staff, 2 more staff in particular. That would increase the budget, I think, by $200,000, although I think Kitsy still needs to verify that for me. Overall, that would bring your numbers for CIR up to 102 and OEI up to 98, so balancing that back out to closer to 100.
But if you add them together, it's 200.
You are 100% right. Scenario 2 is to look at, because of the large amount of land you guys have when compared to national averages and the excess there, and then also the sheer number of parks that you guys have, to right-size the parkland for optimization. So decreasing that acres of parkland from from 16 to 14 per 1,000 residents, keeping your full-time employees the same, and that gets you basically back to your 200, Aaron. So each one of those has its challenges, obviously. It comes to my attention that adding budget and adding staff is a bit of a challenge from what I've heard right now. But there are two different ways to kind of skin that. Mm-hmm.
If I could ask, how many acres of parkland would that calculate out to for our city? Is that like a couple hundred? Or what would we be talking about?
Yeah.
About 70 acres reduction?
140 acres.
140 roughly?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, did you explore the scenario of like wilding parts of our parkland so they don't take staffing? Or limited amount of staffing?
Yeah, that's a good point, because while wilding and planting native species is definitely less maintenance than mowing, it does require maintenance, and I guess the expectation for that, from what I've seen, would be the first one to clear up. So having gone through the Boyd Park Master Plan, I can speak that the prairie that's maintained there is a challenge to maintain, because it innately wants to not be a prairie, it wants to be a forest. So there's constantly this cutting back of the forest that has to happen to keep it a prairie. But it is a possibility, yes, to reduce the amount of maintenance by cutting the lawn mowing does help. However, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, mowing lawn is done by a different department than the Parks and Rec.
No, both of them, streets and parks. And
Okay.
we're doing about 95 acres of prairies this year.
Okay.
Converting our green spaces in some parkland, our corridors, or
pollinator habitat project.
That will definitely help. The other thing you could potentially do, I just want to show just a quick nondescript case study for you guys to consider, is take a portion or small portions of already existing parks and potentially convert that into housing of some kind. The opportunity is to take that land, convert it to lots, take that real estate cost of however much you can get for lot sales and or taxes, and use that for reinvestment into park improvements, which should help in both senses. You're reducing the amount of acreage of land that you're having to maintain, and you're reducing the maintenance costs by upgrading that aging infrastructure. To give you a quick cost breakdown, we prepared that really hard to read Excel document.
Are those the only two options that you considered?
Right now, yeah. Is there a?
Well, I just think that, one thing that we don't harness very well with regards to our city at all is the sort of, feelings of social entrepreneurship that a lot of our citizens have. Like, how hard would it be to, have neighborhoods adopt their neighborhood park? Like, I'd be willing to bet significant amounts of money that there is a man named Roger who lives within 6 blocks of Boyd Park, that if you paid for his gas, he'd be happy to keep that mowed and take a tremendous amount of pride in it also. And that probably holds true for a pretty sizable chunk of our smaller neighborhood parks.
Okay.
The other thing could be
Claire has had her light on,
Oh,
I
sorry,
think so.
Claire.
Oh, no,
The other
okay.
thing could be-
I had a question I got answered.
Oh, okay.
The other thing could be land trusts. I don't know if that exists in cities, but maybe in big green space areas, you could have a nonprofit that actually purchases or has an easement for that land.
Like
Just
the
another-
prairie enthusiasts or something.
Yeah.
Just another idea.
The prairie or something like that.
Okay. We have a request for you to finish your presentation and then have questions, if that's okay.
Okay. Base?
I did email, it is on, I emailed it to you guys if you,
So last thing, basically, summarizing it right here. Where do we go from here? So we're going to Waterways and Parks on the 26th, so Wednesday. We're going to give them this same presentation, let them ask questions, and hopefully ask for their recommendation. And then sometime in April or May, we'll be back to you guys for a formal adoption.
Chris, can you just share a little bit more what's in the report? Like, just talk through, so there are options for like ideas or strategies, and then also how you rated the parks?
Yeah, so within the operational brief, not the corp, we do list out some potential ideas for alternate funding strategies, maintenance, reduction of maintenance costs, talking about land trusts, talking about partnerships as well. And then we give a formal implementation process within that project brief to help with some of these operational considerations as well. And then in that, we also recommend certain things like potentially.
Can you explain how you made a matrix of the parks too?
Yep. So we, I think I mentioned this the first time, we went through what we call a usability index. So basically, I think we rank on 27 categories every single park, what's in them, and then also some of the intangibles like accessibility, community connectivity, programming, meaning like how many programs do they run out there. And basically what we're trying to do is gauge which parks are the most usable for the community and try to understand which ones are of high value, need to be maintained, are doing a great job already, which ones are maybe a little bit lower but need some key inputs, like Boyd Park maybe needing some seating is one of those things. And then some of the lower value ones that you guys are having within your park system that are just not providing much, if any, value to the community right now from a park standpoint. And then that also has to be waged against, like, if it is considered to be, you know, a reduction in parkland, it has to be weighted against, is that a piece of donated land that has a legal description on it that it would remain a park no matter what, or if it's opportunistic. So it just depends. But yeah, we do have that. The usability index has been very helpful in the conversations we've had.
Great. So knowing that we have another work session, what do you want us to, is this the end, like, or do you want us to discuss, or?
I think if you can give us some guidance as to what you want to, do you think it's worth exploring a reduction in perks? And I think that ultimately it kind of comes down to values. Like when you think about this matrix of this usability index, you can weight different features, different amounts, like tree canopy or proximity to multifamily housing or really great amenities or really great wilderness. And so it's like you guys kind of can give feedback about what do you think the purpose of open space is or purposes of open space. But I think I think what would make this the most helpful document is if you guys give us marching orders about what to do about this problem that's Chris has identified of there being too few staff for the facilities that we have. Sure. And it could be an ongoing discussion, but I'm not sure how much more of this time you have on your contract, but it would be great if we could get something that's operationalizable.
Looks like there's comments. All right. Larry?
So for me, I would say, you know, like Eau Claire, most people are so proud of their parks. So if the open spaces you have, if you try to convert maybe to residential areas, for example, like soccer park, it will be, the city will go on fire. People go crazy. But there are parks like Kaiser, the one on Walnut Street next to Kennedy Park. Kaiser. That one, now because of Kennedy Park, that one you can sell it or you do what you guys were doing. But there are some parks like that. But the other parks, like the one here, what's the name of the park on Main Street?
University Park?
No.
Yeah, it's called University, right?
No, there's another one, the one there basketball courts. Boyd, you cannot do anything with it.
No.
I mean, you go nuts. So it would depend which park you guys I don't know which park.
It depends.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from, so.
There are certain metrics we can break out too if you are interested in seeing specific park locations. So neighborhood parks being anywhere from, I think, 3 to 10 acres. You have a few parks that are above 10 acres. So Buffington Park, I think, is 15 acres. Essentially, according to national averages and what you can develop in that area, you have an excess of 5 acres for that park type in Buffington Park alone.
And then before I leave, talking about the data, you were talking about the data. How many people did you guys ask?
Sorry, what was that?
There was a data analysis.
The data analysis?
If you go the slide, there was a slide way back. Way back. Yeah, go forward a little bit. Just forward a little bit. No, I don't think we. There's a data. You said data.
Oh, data analysis?
Yeah, data analysis. Yeah, that one. I wanted you to speak a little bit on that. Maybe you ask people to how many parks, which parks you used more than others compared to the national standard. Yes.
Oh, so when we went through community engagement, we did ask people which parks they use the most and which ones are like their most loved parks. And we do have that information. It should be in the operational brief as to which one that is. I think we list the top 10 essentially, and it's typically Carson, Boyd, and some other key ones, Fairfax. You guys pretty much know them. But we did not compare the data analysis of that to any sort of community feeling about the different parks. We just used the usability index to help inform that. But the usability, Stephanie mentioned this, each one of the categories in the usability index, from accessibility all the way down to dog parks, has a weighted percentage based on the community engagement feedback we receive. So if the community is saying, we really love playgrounds, we need more playgrounds, that's weighted higher than dog parks or camping.
Okay. All right, Josh? Let's go ahead.
Thanks, Chris. One comment here. One of your slides had something that said not sacrificing tomorrow, just to save today. So, and Andrews mentioned this earlier. I think we should look at, before selling, I mean, I know there's a financial advantage to selling as well, but also kind of wilding or, making parts more dormant, not requiring the upkeep that's really draining our resources, because, we have a certain situation today, but once you sell parkland, it's gone. You're not getting it back. So I know, selling is an option, but I think also including perhaps a step before that is ways to reduce the maintenance requirements and still keep the parkland in our portfolio. That way we have opportunities for the future to, expand back into them again.
Okay.
Kate? Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So I'm trying to understand kind of your criteria for how to determine the right balance of parkland versus community members, and I'm wondering if it's really just based on the national standards, or if there was more to that. And sorry if you said it and I missed it.
No, you're good. It was based on primarily national, because that's where we can get the most blended, most reliable information that we can filter through pretty easily. But we did pull out some key communities too, like Waukesha and La Crosse, and we tried to look at communities of similar population. I believe Janesville's in the operational brief as well as a comparison, and I think Janesville, if memory serves me right, was closer to Eau Claire in its metrics than others.
Okay, I have another question. Do you have any thoughts about the distribution of parkland? I know I'm thinking in particular we had a situation in the northeastern part of the city. They had waited for 20 years for a neighborhood park. The folks who lived there were miles away from the closest park, and so in that sense, I know that there are certain parts of the city where parkland is pretty condensed. There's a lot of parkland, but then there are other parts of the city where there's really not a lot of opportunity. There's not a lot of parkland for folks, and so I guess I'm wondering if that's something that you've considered in this report, and if there's any, recommendations to kind of right-size the distribution as well.
Yeah, and we did, yes. And what we did, and it's in the comprehensive outdoor rec plan, not the project operational brief, is we looked at all of the different parks, the different categories of parks, what they included in the parks, and then we added on to that schools, because schools, outdoor spaces oftentimes provide that function of neighborhood park for the surrounding community. Think of Robbins Elementary. That is the neighborhood park for that area, and we heard that over and over. from community members when we did community engagement at the summer concert series. That's great to have. Overall, the saturation is across the board. There's some outlying areas where you would probably imagine suburban development over the years happening and not a lot of parks going in. North, east, north central, certainly. And then south around the Fairfax area, there's some outlying areas that are just not great with public land. But then you have other areas that are just completely saturated with parks. Downtown, 100% has a lot of parks. Over by Half Moon Lake and Rod and Gun Park, a lot of neighborhood parks in that area as well. So it's this weird balance between those. What we did, though, is we looked at overall saturation, and then we brought the usability index into GIS and took out some key metrics on some key things the community mentioned about playgrounds and stuff, and compared where are the best amenities at and where are the worst amenities at, and what areas need to be improved within those park systems to provide quality amenities, particularly in areas that don't have them. So overall, the number of parks and saturation, good across the entire city. There's some small gaps, and you guys can see those in the report. I can provide those sheets to you in larger format if they're not that readable. And the usability index sheets are getting completed right now. We can send those over as well. Are there any particular amenities you want us to look at within that usability index that we can provide maps of? Right now, it's playgrounds and seating amenities and access as the three most important ones that we've noticed.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Definitely.
What do you
think? That sounds like a great plan. I'd have to think about that. I generally think that, I think we have a great spread of different parks that offer different things. One of my favorite parks is literally just like a field, like a mowed field. There's like nothing there. I think there's a bench. And so I think that, I think I'm not I think my priority is more around public land that people can enjoy and not necessarily like what the amenities are, because I think they all offer something different. Thank you for answering my questions. Would you mind, could I give an opinion on?
I think so.
Okay, cool. Since that's what we're
Yeah.
asking for. Okay, cool. I think this study is really interesting. Truthfully, I feel a little weary about the idea of like developing our parklands. And I think a couple things that I'm thinking about, I feel like I understand that there's probably like not great data around like what does constitute like the right distribution or the right amount of parkland for a city. But it feels to me like the data that we've used assumes that like the average is of cities that are all doing it right, and we don't know that they're all doing it right. And I also find it. I'm having a hard time understanding, or I guess accepting that like there would only be two options. Like if we do sort of decide as a council that we sort of have an outsized, or we have like a need for right sizing, that the only two options would be to like develop parkland or add employees. I think we'd all love to add employees, but I think that's a challenge. And so I would be interested in a discussion moving forward of like what are some of the other options, whether it's like, wilding of parks. Maybe it's like a park that is like is a forest. We like allow it to be a forest, and like I feel like I think that we are a community of like really creative people, and we're a city of an organization of really creative people, and I think that we can I think it feels like we can come up with more than two options or two paths forward. Yes, I think I'll stop there.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. So I want to start by saying this was like a fantastic high-level overview of the plan, and I really appreciate what you presented. But I feel actually really uncomfortable trying to give direction on this with this level of detail that we had. And it sounds like the full report has so much more, and even the question that you asked Kate about what different factors would we want to see weighted or whatever in this large matrix. That sounds really cool and impressive. I don't actually know if I could answer that question either right now, just because I don't feel like I need to see the report probably. And I totally hear you that it's a really dense report and hard to look at in one sitting probably. So I appreciate starting with this kind of like executive summary overview of it. And I'll say like some of the stats you shared are like, you know, I was like really shocked by, and I think it is really compelling to see that we're less than 50% of the national average for the average number of park staff in our community. Like that's really shocking and compelling to me to understand that we should probably, and I've heard that feedback, it's like that tracks with the information I've heard so far in this position, that like we're asking our staff, our park staff, to be stretched so incredibly thin, and we keep building more parks, and there's this like desire in the community for more and more and more, which I appreciate, absolutely, but it's like we have to find that right balance, which is what you're, right, the question that we're being asked right now, and it's really difficult knowing that we're in a very difficult budgetary situation, and what's the reality of getting more staff versus what's like another option to think about. Like I am totally willing to think through these different situations and scenarios, but I just like, my feeling right now is I would really like more opportunity to look at the full report, because I worry, I represent the north side of the city, and there are like a huge gaps. My neighborhood, I don't have a park close by. I think it's like a 20-minute walk when I take my dogs, and it's just like a baseball field that's abandoned and not utilized very heavily, but it's the only park I can get to, you know, without having to cross major highways or anything. And so I worry it's like, well, that would be one of the first parks that's probably identified as an underutilized park that's, you know, not really of value to the larger community. So it's like scary to think about this matrix and what's going to get, you know, chopped, because there's these portions of the city that don't have access to green space. So anyways, this is really long-winded. I don't actually have any direction to offer, but I'm also going to like capture all of this and say like I really would like maybe an opportunity to look at the full report if we can have more time.
Certainly take a look at the full report. I think when it comes down to your question about saturation of parks, what we've seen is reinvestment into a significant number of new parks within the community, and there's some existing parks that really need the reinvestment now. And I think Scenario 2 does a good job of a way to solve that problem without adding on additional parks and responsibility to the parks and parks staff. They're able to improve an existing park by, and not get rid of it completely, but maybe right size it for the function it serves, as I think is the big opportunity for Scenario 2. But by all means, look at it, and if you have any questions on it, please let me know. It is over 200 pages long.
We haven't distributed the report yet, though, right?
Were the links? Yeah, we provided the links.
Okay, so basically, people could review the report, and then you or we can think of questions that we want to ask the council for feedback. We could even do a joint meeting of Waterways and the council, or somehow have a connection between the two. But basically, we want to ask you guys specific questions to consider, like this point about weighting. So like saturation, I don't know if that was one of the indicators, but if it's not, it could be like, is there another park nearby? And then that would get a higher weight.
Where's this link for the report? Email. We have it in the email that you sent, Stephanie?
I sent Tess the email.
We'll get it out to you. If it's not already distributed, we'll.
Thank you.
There should be another PDF called the operational brief in something. If you don't have it, we'll get it to you.
We do have a lot of email.
So many.
Aaron?
Yeah, I guess I would be very, very hesitant, knowing that how, you know, as Larry said, people in this town are crazy for their parks. And I'd be very hesitant to start moving in that direction unless we had reducing the number or size of parks without thoroughly exhausting every other opportunity.
Okay.
I understand that there's, you know, the alternative is also at this point not really possible.
Yeah.
You know, the adding 2 new staff people. But if 2 new staff people are, you know, a total of 80 hours a week, you know, I'm pretty sure we could get more than that, at least in the summer, with, you know, people volunteering, Cub Scout troops, you know, whatever, all that stuff like that. So I'd like us to at least spend a little bit of time exploring that option before we decide to start axing things. That being said, I think there are absolutely, personally, I think there are some spaces that, might actually be improved by, selling off a little teeny chunk, using that money to improve the park. So I'm not morally opposed to that, but also the likelihood of us getting more parkland, especially in the urban, core, is really small.
Yeah.
That's just not something people donate anymore. Nobody donates a whole city block to be a park anymore. Andrew Carnegie is dead and gone, right? And so, we just need to be really careful that we're doing that super intentionally and, with neighborhood support and understanding as to why and what they're getting in return and things like that, if that's the direction that we want to go.
Okay. Okay.
I'll second that.
Second that.
Andrew seconds that. Clara?
Well, yeah, I guess maybe it's very similar to what some other people have said also. I feel like I just want to make the point that our city is growing, 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 and it's not just growing in the outlying areas where we might designate new parkland, but we really want to grow within and closer in also and have more density. And I'm very also leery of reducing any of our green space
Okay.
at all.
Okay. We can break apart downtown core from the other areas as well very easily, so you guys can look at saturation density and park type there too. Because while suburban areas don't necessarily have as many neighborhood parks, they do have schools, more schools than downtown would have.
And generally larger yards.
Mm-hmm.
Interested to know how many people, if you have a.
Use your light, Rooster.
Oh, sorry. If you're, are people who have, half an acre, and a big backyard for their kids to play in, are they utilizing parks to the same degree as somebody that lives in an apartment, closer to downtown? So I don't know if there's even ways to get that information reasonably, but that's just something that goes through my mind.
There is a way to get that information, but it's not reasonably and cheap, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
There's,
Let's maybe think about something.
Well,
there's a website, or not a website, there's a software you can get that pulls cell phone data related to public space, and you can see how many people use based on cell phone data at a particular time. It's really expensive. It's like $50,000 per park or something like that. Yeah, I would not recommend it. What we've seen from trends over and over ever since COVID, whether you're in suburbia or you're downtown, people have been using parks more and more. As people have been working from home more and more, people just find the park and the park system as a way to stretch your legs, get out from being at home and find a new public space.
Yeah. Rod has a comment?
Yeah, I just had a question, and this it may sound insensitive, but when you think about, and maybe staff can help with this as well, when you think of score-wise, what I would say, and this may sound insensitive, bottom of the rung parks in terms of usability, right? I would suggest that we probably have some parks in this community that where the usability is just abhorrently low.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I think there may be patterns, historical patterns, and this is where staff may come in and say, this park, on average, within a given year, you probably have X number of users, right? And so I think that may be a way for us to begin to kind of conceptualize, right, a sense of directionality in terms of parks, right, that may be on the chopping block, right? Because, to be honest with you, if parks are not being used, then what purpose, right, I guess they serve, right? And then we can reconceptualize the purpose in and of itself. But I think in terms of when we ask the question, what purpose does it serve, that's when we get into kind of some of the other nuance, right? And figure out ways to mitigate staff time in relation to the authorization of the park itself, right? Because I can tell you, prior to the park being built in Princeton Park, I was going to Carston Park or either Boyd or, what's the one on? Owen. Those were the parks I were going to. Since the one in Princeton's been built, I don't go to those anymore, right? So I would I'm just thinking about that in terms of like when we begin to think about which of the parks, and staff probably knows this, that is just simply not being used, right? So if they're not being used, then you got to mow them, you got to do all these other things, right, to keep them up.
Yep.
So that's just a thought that I have.
Do you have a?
I just have one more really quick thing. I also think that just thinking about like what is more than these two options. I think like the data around how much people love our parks. I feel like that tells us that we could also, or we should be at least considering a referendum around parkland to increase revenue. I think it's worth considering that, given how much people love the parks here and want to see them maintained. So,
or at least including parks in any referendum that we run for anything else. I mean, actually, if you combine parks in it, it might be more likely to pass. Something to consider.
So I want to make maybe it will be a final comment. So I was a stay-home dad for almost 10 years. So every park in Okra I went. That's why this is something which is dear to my heart. So every park in every neighborhood, it has the meaning to that neighborhood. Do you see the Gen Z, the young, the old people, they call that park. But the two parks, my own opinion, which I've seen, which people don't utilize a lot, is the park, I forgot the name, is on Gulf Road and Gulf Road and how do you call it? By the mall. Oak there. Yeah, that park is not used that much. I don't think my city council know the park that much. You know the park?
I think I know what you're talking. Is it on? Oh yeah, there's a sledding hill there.
Yeah.
Yes, my kid did go to a
it's
birthday
used
party there a long
mostly
time ago.
In the winter,
Yeah.
because of the snow.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
but in summer it's not used there, so you can't find nobody even parking there. That's my own opinion, my own observation. Then the one I told you in Kaiser, the one on your district, because now we have Cranberry Park there, so that one you can sell you to another thing because nobody can complain because there's park there.
Can I clarify? Kessler's being developed.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Yeah, it was flip-flop. That was part of the plan.
Oh, okay.
So they're ahead of you. Or you're super smart.
Thank you.
I do, if I could just say something too quick. I agree. I think I'd be curious to hear what the committee thinks next time, the waterways, parks, and so I'm not really ready to make a decision either. But I don't think I've heard this yet, but to think about affordable housing and if there is an underutilized park, the city already owns the land, and so I feel like that could be a good opportunity. And whether it be affordable housing and then a really nice public space too. So I just want to throw that in there as well as we're looking for more options. And our hands are tied a lot anyways with affordable housing, but if the city already owns the land, I feel like it kind of opens the door with some other options, whether it be a land trust or something. So I just want to put that out there too. Of course, I love all of our parks, but I also love affordable housing, and I think that's important for our city.
So we'll get I have to double check to make sure we have the right information from Chris, but we'll get that out to you. And then is it okay to set up another work session in the future?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then as we think about it too, so there's we have to figure out how to maintain what we have, but there are also proposals for new parks, like the Plank Hill Park, for example. And so do you evaluate the new ones? I mean, you only swap out a new one if you can retire an old one, or so there's the status quo, there's shrinking or there's growing. So there's a bunch of things to try to figure out.
Plank Hill Park, it's land that the city owns that's used for something else. There's a sled hill. I'm sure there's people that walk through it, but I mean, having it, just leaving it as it is also, a viable option if we, and then maybe 50 years down the road, if the inner core is super dense and our parks are getting swamped with people, then maybe we take and put some time and money into some land. Like not all the land that the city like owns has to be. We can't just leave it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's certainly parks too within the system that just do not lend themselves to redevelopment. Archery Park, no developer is going to be like, yeah, I want to build down on that hole. It's just not going to happen. And there's a few of those out there. I love Archery Park. It's an awesome location. It's cool when you get down there too. It's like this. Anyways. Thank you. Appreciate all the feedback.
This one's easy. Do you guys need 2 minutes? Or you guys push through? No, I'll give you 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. I'm excited to be here. In case you don't know, Ben Spinell, Utilities Manager. I am here we are a year behind of where you guys are just looking at. So we're looking right now at a RFP, request for proposals for the water evaluation for the city of Eau Claire. So this is kind of like a facilities plan where we're going to take our water system, our treatment plant, source water, and move it into the future. I emailed out the proposed or the draft proposal to everyone mid last week for you guys to take a look at. And so I was just looking to get some feedback, any kind of directions, comments, concerns that you might have before this goes out for proposals. I just got some brief slides. Where do I need to point here? There we go. So the last one, we do one about every 10 years. So the last one was done in 2014. We're a year behind, mostly because of PFAS. So PFAS has pushed us behind. That was more of our focus than moving forward. We kind of knew we had to deal with PFAS. That was the emergency situation at that time. Whoops. Okay, from 2014, these are the few projects that we had done in 14. The second project that you see on there, the filter and settling basin project, that project alone shows how important this study is. That filtered and settling basin project allowed us to deal with PFAS the way we did. Without doing that project, we would have had to have had water restrictions, possibly bottled water. We've been in a really poor situation compared to what we are right now. So this evaluation is super important to stay ahead of any kind of issues that may come up in the future. The second to last one there, also the emergency generator. That's always been in the CIP. That was part of that evaluation as well too, and that's finally going to happen at the water treatment plant. We are going to have a backup emergency source for whatever, whether it's natural disaster or anything else that hits us. We will have power to keep water in our system. Yeah. So here's the three main points that we're going to hit and that need to be hit. The water supply, the treatment, that's looking at the water treatment plant. We'll look at the source of our water. We'll look at the supply of the water aquifer. Just like every other infrastructure, we have aging wells that will eventually need to be replaced. We'll look at new sites for those. And one of the biggest things is we'll have PFAS up and running. This consultant will come in and just look at the efficiency of this PFAS treatment that will be online hopefully by the end of the year here too. We'll look at the distribution system. We'll look at our reservoirs. We'll look at our transmission. The big discussion tonight of kind of how Eau Claire has expanded. The location of possible new reservoirs. Kind of like whether we can put one up in Hills or if we need another one like Folsom Tower. Compare it to our zoning plan and our comprehensive plan, where water is going to be needed. And then finally, the computer model. They'll model our entire system and be able to run different situations, whether if it's an industry coming to town or a new development come to town. We can see how that affects not only our water supply, but just our infrastructure. And so besides those core goals, we've got these other ones that are all coming due kind of at the same time. The EPA requires a risk and resilient assessment to be done every 5 years, and this is the year to redo it, or to at least update it. Look at terrorist threats or natural disasters and how our system is prepared or be able to function through those. They'll set up situations and set up emergency situations and how we can work through those. Being with PFAS, it's time to kind of take a look at our wellhead protection plan. The expansion that we've done in the city, it's time to look at any other sources of pollution out there. Things that would affect our source water and have that updated. New maps, new language, same thing, that vulnerability assessment would be included in that as well too. Emergency response plan, again, also required by the DNR. We have the concept of an emergency response plan, but it's stuff here and here and here and here. There's no doubt we can respond to any emergency, but to put everything together in one binder, more or less, is what we're looking for from the consultant. And then finally, that last thing, developing a supply and stewardship and conservation plan. And a lot of that comes out of DNR code, NR 854. And that's really looking at our existing needs and projecting into the future of possible needs. And not only looking at population, but looking at the seasons and the climate and residential and commercial and industry and how we use water in the city of Eau Claire. And a lot of that, the stakeholder and citizen engagement, the DNR does require participation from the public in developing that type of plan. So that's the short and narrow of it. Again, I don't know if I've had time to look at the proposed RFP that I have sent you. I think I really hit on a lot of the topics and specifics of what we are looking for, but just wanted to open up to council for any kind of, again, comments or direction prior to putting this out, looking for a consultant.
Hi, thank you. I actually am less interested in the contents of the RFP because I have a great deal of faith in you guys to handle this really well.
I appreciate that.
You know, if it's like kind of the least sexy thing that attracts people to Eau Claire, but like if we didn't seriously though, you know, if we didn't have utilities that worked, if people like had brown stuff coming out of their faucets and whatever, like we wouldn't be a city very long. Absolutely. And I think you guys do a really good job of that. One of the thing that I'm wondering about is how are things weighted in these sorts of RFPs? Because I guess my preference,
as far as selecting a consultant,
you know, if there's companies or businesses or people even locally that can do it, do we give any additional weight to selecting local contractors and stuff on these sorts of things? Because, you know, in the same way that like the federal government is 20% of the spending in our economy, the city of Eau Claire is like a big spender.
Sure.
On things, and if we can be helping, you know, local businesses, you know, as long as it's not like, you know, massively more expensive
Yes.
to do so, I'd like to see us do that whenever possible. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we will work with purchasing. Sneaky little guy. Sorry.
I couldn't
go
sit,
ahead.
I couldn't sit any longer. I have to chime in.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have to chime in a little bit. So, but there is actually in our standard bidding process, when we develop an RFP for a project like this, there is scoring for familiarity with the area or prior knowledge, you know, of working with the community and such. So there is some credit given for that, and that has helped us identify, you know, somebody that is probably gonna work better with us as opposed to somebody from the East Coast or the West Coast or something like that. But there is some weighting given to that. So, and, you know, when we went through a lot of issues in the past year, you know, council was very passionate about water and, you know, making sure that we protect that and whatnot. So this is your opportunity. If you want any input into this study, this is your time to chime in. What would you like us to look at? And that's something that will get added to the RFP. So Ben's just looking for, you know, if there's things that you would like to see studied as part of this, you know, send those comments to Ben. You know, if you have a chance to read the document that he sent out. And then if you think of something else that you really think, oh, we should look at this, or, you know, make sure that we're protecting whatever, you know, please send those comments our way, so.
What's our deadline for that? Friday?
As soon as possible, I would like to, some of these reports are due at the end of the year. I would like to put this RFP out mid-April sometime. To have a consultant on board by end of May, I would hope.
Can I just say really quick, I would like to send comments, if that's okay.
I would love that, yeah.
I can't focus on anything else besides
No, I
getting
get
dinner
it.
right now.
No, I get it.
I'm
I get it. No, I get it.
starving.
Yeah.
But I really, really appreciate you bringing this to us and giving us an opportunity to give input on
Yeah.
this. It's something that's been really important to me, and I just want
Absolutely.
to be able to like put my full mind towards it.
I-
So if it's okay, I just wanted to say that, and I think I am going to go.
Yeah, I
but
get my
but thank
contacts
you for
out too.
thank you for being here, and I will
Yes,
send comments.
Please, yeah, and it'll- just to his point, like I said, the sooner the better.
I'll send
so
them
we
this
can
week before
push-
Friday.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, I can be.
I'm going this way, Clara.
Sure, no problem.
I'll be quick. I did see in the RFP, I think that the number of public meetings that's listed is 2.
Yes.
And I guess to me, this is like a really important issue. I think about the legislation that Kate and Andrew passed, like shortly after I joined council, associated with like developing some kind of a conservation stewardship plan. And like, we had so many people here that were so passionate. I
Yeah.
still remember there was like this high school
Yeah.
student that came and gave like this amazing public comment, and like, I feel like we clapped after.
She
which
just
is
reached
not
out to me
well.
like a few days ago to ask when this was happening.
Yeah.
Because she wants to get involved.
So I think
Amazing
like
timing.
there's so much passion.
Okay.
I would really prefer to see more than 2. I don't have a like perfect number to offer. 3, 4, I don't know. But that's one piece of feedback I wanted to offer. And then also, like, I'm at least somewhat familiar with like the DNR administrative code you referenced, 854.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really specific to the technical like safety and public health of like the system and delivering that water to residents and like where we're sourcing that water from. But does it get into, and like I'm not super extensively familiar with it, does it also speak to like the sustainability and conservation and long-term sort of quantity?
It doesn't,
Protection?
it doesn't give, 854, it doesn't, it's not very specific. It's more of guidelines.
Yeah.
It's, these are the, it's actually, it's only 3 pages. It kind of, they just tell you what you need to look at. You need to look at population and look at the aquifer source, and, you know, they're not really given specific things that you have to look at. And I kind of went through 854 and I'm sorry, I guess in that last page, I kind of hit the big points requiring the consultant, we need to hit these things to satisfy 854.
Yeah, I guess I'll provide feedback after tonight too.
Awesome.
I don't need to take up more airtime, but.
No, that's okay.
I just think like, I would like to see as much of like checking the box for all the state regulations, but also if we have this opportunity to add in and incorporate some of the other aspects our community is really passionate about, that would be.
Absolutely, and that's what I want.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, yeah.
If I could ask, my impression when we talked about the stewardship and conservation plan is that was going to be a separate document with sort of a community input about one of the things is values around our water. And if I could request, I see here the way that this proposal is written, it has like 4 areas that are more of these technical, like supply, treatment, distribution, redundancy, et cetera. But here then it says additionally the consultant shall. If I could request that this stewardship plan be one of the key items, not sort of an additional thing.
Okay.
Because I
Yeah,
think it's an
I didn't
important-
mean, sorry.
Just the way that it's worded,
Sorry.
it seems like there's these 4 areas, but then there's additional things. I don't know if that means they have less importance than the 4.
Yeah, that's not what I wanted to convey.
Okay.
It was that's not what I wanted to convey.
Okay.
So I can fix that to make it
Yeah, just to
not sound
to
less
bring
important.
it higher up in the.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's.
And then I'll write to you with some
Yes,
feedback too.
and we can, those 4 points are there, those 4 points below, those are all separate documents. So that Stewart plan can be its own separate binder or whatever it turns out to be.
Okay.
And that's kind of why I have it separate. Those top 4 points are one report. And then those bottom ones are kind of their own individual reports that just want to bring them up to date.
I see.
So I can fix that a little bit, so,
That makes sense, I understand.
okay.
Binders full of stewardship report.
What's that again? Okay.
I just want to say thank you. That's it for me.
Awesome,
I really,
Clara.
really appreciate it.
I
This is really
appreciate
good.
that, thank you.
I was just going to say, go ahead, and then I just, put your microphone on.
Thank you for this one. I hope we will have a public hearing for this one, because, water is life.
Yeah.
Without water, that's it, we don't have life. So I think public, like today, one of the mandates down the road, people come comment that they feel they are part of the problem or part of the solution. Yeah, thank you.
And I was just going to say that this is, they're the utilities division, so they're thinking specifically about water delivery, but I think we could use this as an opportunity to have a bigger community discussion. For example, we know that lawn watering is a really big user, so maybe a community group initiates, education campaign related to changing lawn practices, or maybe we want to have a conversation about industry and how much water industry should use, and doesn't matter if it's what the type of industry is, doesn't matter if it returns it to the water table stuff. I'm not sure if I just personally don't quite know yet if that is part of this study or if it's like a complement to that. So I think we can all think about that, but just imagine that this is like the center of it, and then additional effort goes around it.
Will this be ready for our full rate case in 2026? Will this report be done to inform that?
Yeah, so we're.
It-
I have some other.
Go ahead.
He's used to me being rude,
Go
so.
ahead.
He's worked with me for a long time, so. So we do have just a little bit of an update on the rate case, so we might actually be able to bring that forward a little bit earlier. We might be able to start it maybe possibly even mid-year, but that's something I'm gonna defer to Director Winters on. But we did get some feedback from the PSC recently that they don't necessarily need the PFAS project to be completed 100%. So it looks like we might be able to bring that forward. But the rate case and this document are totally different animals. So this will not investigate rate structure or anything. That's something that will work with the PSC and Ehlers.
The only reason I asked that is
Financial
because
planner.
of our city manager's point about values around industry and water use could be informative of a rate case. But, yeah.
Sorry, Ben.
That's all I got. That's all I got. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Yeah, thank you.